memories of your activism. Watch your weak resistance usher in a fucking cataclysm. Elect a bigot war pig and say you're gonna push him into pacifism. That's some bootlicker Stockholm hostage liberal masochism. Bootlicker Stockholm hostage liberal masochism. Baby, that's some fucking bootlicker Stockholm hostage liberal masochism. God, that's some fucking bootlicker Stockholm hostage liberal masochism. That's some fucking...
You know, sir, I like you much better with my glasses off.
I guess I was born with the curse of foresight, 'cause I knew Joe was only gonna represent the war side. And that said, I just came to fight. You could keep the ore flight. Save the surprise and the gasp when the shadow of the fascists have cast is on your doorstep and the glow of your porch light. Save the surprise when the grid goes down and we go underground to lick wounds in the gloom of a torchlight. While up in the sky, a blimp glides by with a sign like New Year's 2022. Brought to you jointly by Pfizer and Coors Light. While the centrists observe from a comfortable courtside, right in the thick of the action behind a partition. We're in a morbid position, a plague of evictions, born a comorbid condition of the cancer of wealth. I fantasize that I cancel myself, hands on your head, throw your best laid plans in the well. There are no more answers, questions go back on the shelf. All Joe's donors, a quick show of hands. How many of you subbed to the Lockheed Martin OnlyFans? How many are loyalist patrons for the Raytheon Patreon? Occupy Iraq and send $1 million off into the great beyond. Cool yourself with the safety on. True to yourself in as much as you dutifully spew out a mucus of QAnon. You can't convince me the Capitol wasn't surrendered with every intention of digging us deeper down into the treacherous webbing of censorship, ebbing your speech and dissension so you can't hold Biden accountable. Not in his mentions and not in the streets. No to the end that Joe will defend the elite. Joe won't embarrass McConnell, but Joe's not embarrassed if all of your children are hungry and weak. Too hungry to speak. Too hungry to stand, they just lie at his feet. Joe is fresh out of empathy, fresh out of policy, but he'd love to know, what was your favorite ice cream flavor to eat? Back when you used to eat. I guess the road isn't rocky for people who thought we were free. They'll believe what they read, and Joe's here to lull them to sleep. Counting us down by the dozens, the culling of gullible sheep, led to the slaughter by media tyrants and government thieves. These are the leeches that stubbornly suck where there's nothing to bleed. These are the tumors that force us to crawl on our knees. This is the home of the brave. This is the land of the free. One was foreclosed in 08. One was condemned in 16. This is the home of the brave. This is the land of the free. One was foreclosed in 08. One was condemned in 16. This is the home of the brave. This is the land of the free. One was foreclosed in 08. One was condemned in 16. This is the home of the brave. This is the land of the free. One was foreclosed in 08. One was condemned in 16. This is the home of the brave. This is the land of the free. One was foreclosed in 08. One was condemned in 16. This is the home of the brave. This is the land of the free. One was foreclosed in 08. One was condemned in 16. This is the home of the brave. This is the land of the free. One was foreclosed in 08. One was condemned in 16. This is the home of the brave. This is the land of the free. One was foreclosed in 08. One was condemned in 16. This is the home of the brave. This is the land of the free. my lips. Brand new taxes, starving all the billionaires and neutering their Visa Maxes. Topple Congress off their axis, mobilize the homeless, give them axes, call it praxis. Chop a couple limbs off the legislative branches. We'll show you the difference between air as a human right and guaranteed oxygen access. Octogenarians who barely know what day it is are culling countless citizens while sitting on a dais made of ignorance that was built on the graves of the slaves made to labor for its self-declared significance. And all to build a Congress full of millionaires who make their fortunes insider trading while they shit on all the indigent. So I got a bone to pick with our leaders, and I'll start with the ligaments. Pick right through the muscle, dig the marrow out, and serve it to the unhoused millions living in their minivans or watching their belongings get evicted from their tenement. I have a dream where we breach the walls of Congress and just let them in. And what happens next will survive in only text, 'cause there won't be any evidence. There will only be that heavy kind of feeling that pervades a space where there has been a reckoning and you can feel its remnants. Let any man who enters seeking power know that those who came before him suffocated on their eminence. That there once was a seal on the wall, but we quartered it and scattered all the pieces that it might prevent its semblance. And so we end the great experiment. We'll take all your billions, leave you 2 coins for the ferryman. Leave you drifting on a Dutchman floating derelict among the wretched seraphim. For holy is the hand that wiped the land clean of those who pose as gentlemen. That's my time, honey, cue the thunderclap and strike the theremin. And so we end the great experiment. I think I liked it better being blind, when I couldn't read between the lines, and when I couldn't see the cracks in the structure that lay bare before me the whole time. I think I liked it better back when I suspended disbelief and swallowed pride. I thought I knew the difference in the red from the blue, but they both bleed us so dry. They both bleed us so dry. My favorite songs don't hit the same way. I get to the end of a 4-minute track and I'm only looking back thinking, what did they actually say? So I try to sit down with my wife and watch TV, but I just see propaganda elevating the police in the simplest of sitcom banter, and tiny little altars full of offerings to corporate masters in every well-planned wide pan shot of the name brand stocking up the pantry. Pull back one long tracking shot out to the garage to the logo on the Camry. Nice tight shot of the Camry. Close-up view of the Camry, slow pan up on the Camry, long slow zoom to the unmoving human who is up in the front with the tube pumping fumes to him straight from the back of the Camry. Ashamed he just could not provide for himself, let alone for his family. It's a blue pill mindset that spent 2020 making dance beats.
think I liked it better being blind, when I couldn't read between the lines, and when I couldn't see the cracks in the structure that lay bare before me the whole time. I think I liked it better back when I suspended disbelief and swallowed pride, and thought I knew the difference in the red from the blue, but they both bleed us so dry. They both bleed us so dry.
Ignorance is bliss, which explains why a lot of us are so fucking happy. Quick to take the trip for all its trappings. Never one to ask what's up, what's going on, or God forbid what's happening. A lot of us would strap into the ride and then spit right in the eye of the guy whose job it is to snap your fastenings. But maybe we're all born with that capacity. Maybe each of us comes standard with humor, compassion, malice, and audacity. Some of us are blind to the system, but some see it fine and say this is how it has to be. Some of us can stare wide-eyed at a nationwide human catastrophe and only offer platitudes and recipes. And I wish that I could tell myself that nothing's worth obsessing past my everyday necessities. I wish that I could cry fake news over anything that threatened me, tune out our abuses and consume a little levity. Wish that I could offer up my son a smoother destiny. Wish I had some better lessons for how best to answer questions for the things I've been perpetually questioning. But I'm too busy looking at our leaders, wondering what I might be missing from their messaging. Trying to find the reasoning to let 250,000 people meet an early reckoning. And even though I know the truth, it's hard to swallow something that's so literally sickening. Hope is ever dwindling, COVID ever beckoning. Winter slows your breathing, but your pulse is ever quickening. Even though I know the truth, it's hard to keep listening. I'm done with my epiphany, my innocence is blistering. I'd like to think I'd taste the earth before I'd ever kiss the ring. Hard to speak the truth and harder still to keep listening.
Sometimes I think I miss being blind, when I couldn't read between the lines, and when I couldn't see the cracks in the structure that lay bare before me the whole time. I think I liked it better back when I suspended disbelief and swallowed pride. Thought I knew the difference in the red from the blue, but they both bleed us so dry. Both bleed us so dry. Both bleed us so dry. They both bleed us so dry.
What it means to be insane. Having to choose between war and war is not what it means to play the game. Why does it put your mind at ease to ignore this big disease? Why do you like to sit and pretend when you always know the end? Go tell the BBC, go tell the CIA.
don't stop. Just push through and you don't stop. Broken and bruised, you don't stop. Coughing up fluid, you don't stop. Alright, fresh from the mines that brought you King Midas. Sign of the times, call me Homo detritus. Karma's a beast and its fleas make a plague look childish. Are we home of the brave or the best or the brightest? None of the above, and my answer's as final as one wrong look at one of Brooklyn's finest. Now Barack was a real class act, been a walk to The Hague so stylish, where he can perch on a warlord's throne, made a little known Middle East drone violence. Buddy, they were logging mileage while you and your smartphone were both on silent. Too busy hailing Barack as a well-spoken token that prejudice was dead and America had woken up when all along our bigotry was thriving. In a rising red vitriolic tide so thick that it is binding, like a contract of slavery they gave us in writing. Loophole amendments that lay on their minds and then go into hiding, so they can legislate slaves to a 20-cent wage if they're on the inside. The road isn't long, it is wide, and there's not much winding. They just lead you to a lifetime of small crime, bring you back and put you in a line, doing sweatshop labor for a couple fucking dimes. And you can spend your whole life here being beaten by a staff of steroid gym rat white nationals. Do it all for Nike, buddy, do it for the Capitol, do it for the guards so they'll treat you like an animal. Do it when you're sick or you're sore, cause you have to. Do it so the prison shareholders can roll in their dough and remodel their bathrooms with walk-in showers that might be a little bit bigger than the cell where you spend 20 hours of your 24, maybe more. They don't count it anymore. They just need you well enough to move a product out the door. They just got a marble countertop and all new tile floors. Heated fucking seats on a bidet that you help them afford. But they won't lift a finger if your warden goes overboard and makes your common area an unspoken COVID ward. Lets you intermingle like he hadn't really done before. Now there's a lot of pits dug up in the yard, all numbered, and he still won't tell you what the number's for. But it's gotta be a warning, and probably the kind that you might need thunder for. When the realization strikes, they've been grouping you tight and restricting your time outside. It won't take a genius to link it to all of the coughing that's keeping you up every night. So if you can't abide slaves, I'll state the case plain. A prisoner shares the same rights, and your tax dollars are lining the pockets of those who ensure that the luxuries of medicine and showers are consistently denied. And you can spend 8 years if you're black cause you burned up a trash can, but you won't see any time if you rape when you're young and you're white. And in 5 years' time, that white rapist guy gets a job as a guard where he finds a new prey to dehumanize. And it's ingrained as a part of our system of justice so deeply that it's not scrutinized. And if we're talking capital punishment, all of these assholes with bludgeons who call themselves justice could probably be euthanized, rather than giving them 70 humans to supervise, torture, and brutalize. Sensitivity training can't teach you the value of human life. It's a message that's basic. Our nature has shaped it, and culture is born out of breaking it down and then seeing it crucified. I feel like I'm watching every day with exponentially more lucid eyes, till I'm drooling out my cheek and down my side, and my eyes are the dullest shade of overdose white, when just a dose of reality hits like an overdose might. It's a gross mentality that keeps this country going. Makes you wonder why we're keeping it alive, and we don't stop. Just push through and you don't stop. Coughing up fluid, you don't stop. Guards gang rape you and you don't stop. They take your commissary, you don't stop. Your mother's being buried, you don't stop. When nothing is forgiven, you don't stop. When life's not living, you don't stop. You just push through and you don't stop. Coughing up fluid, you don't stop. God's gang rape you and you don't stop. Broken and bruised, you don't stop. They take your commissary, you don't stop. Your mother's being buried, you don't stop. When nothing is forgiven, you don't stop. When life's not living, you don't stop. You just push through, you don't stop. Coughing up fluid, you don't stop. God's gang rape you and you don't stop.
Because guess what? What has every major crime bill that's gotten this far been? A Democratic crime bill. A Democratic Democratic crime bill. That's the secret. A Democratic crime bill. A Democratic president wants 100,000 cops.
I guess in the end that it's just a crapshoot. Who denounces the true you versus who backs you? Knowing you would skin the poor to make a tracksuit. Knowing you'd begin a few wars if your overlords asked you. Knowing that the ink's not dry on the last few. And knowing that your voters aren't living in a goddamn vacuum. We see through you, Joe, we see past you. Joe, we know you only want to kick trans folks out the bathrooms. Spittle up some dreck about family values.
That's the secret.
Take away our weed and then say that we just need Valium. Joe Biden, patron saint of Big Pharma, knows no karma, and all of our media paints him as valiant. Well, I'm here to tell you the spirit of Biden exists in a cursed medallion that rose out of hell like smoke in the form of 1,000 stallions. A dead battalion. Eyes blood red with a lust for the violence of racial injustice.
That's the secret.
I come to bury Joe and burn a candle for Augustus. And it's maybe not a song you would dance to, but something of substance. Something in place that can warn you when liberals lie while they're looking you straight in the eye and they say you can trust us.
That's the secret.
I come to bury Joe and burn a candle for Augustus. Maybe you didn't get what I meant. This is not a political event. It's the winter of our discontent. Half of us will not make rent. I might burn my masters just to keep warm. Big white lies. No silver lining under smoke gray skies. And all of the streets ran red, but the blood sure kept our feet warm. So vote for the wolf in sheep form. Defund police before we're all deformed. Take our free speech, we'll speak in the tongues of C4. Our lungs need more to send us packing than tear gas thrown from the hands of fascists who killed their cams and take off their badges, all while Biden and Kamala fund our assassins and offer us nothing but platitudes. They'll tell us go out and vote and then clean up your attitudes. Well, Joe, fuck you to death and the donors you fed us to. Go out and vote and then clean up your attitudes.
A Democratic president wants 100,000 cops. A Democratic president wants 100,000 cops.
Good morning, Sunday morning. Good morning, Sunday morning.
We're 40 Sunday mornings out from normal, and the world is not the same. Said you waited for a warning, but the warning never came. Don't shine a light in my face.
Nancy gonna cut you a check too late. 2 years after your funeral's paid. 2 years after the grave. She'll be a little stronger for all of the dollars she saved. Watching you wake, watching you cling to your family slipping away. Watch her do nothing but pray. Watch her condemn the Republicans, take them to brunch and then shrug it away. Now watch us be outraged half of a day, then pick a new hero to face our leaders and think they could beat them, playing the game they played since Pelosi had real human blood in her veins. They're all one and the same, sold off stocks and they all maintain that the risk was benign and the virus was tame. Flash forward and 40 Sunday mornings fade, 250,000 people in its wake, and the cruise ship sailed today. So motherfucker, don't shine a light on my face. Wait,
Sunday morning. Good morning. Sunday morning.
We're 40 Sunday mornings out from normal, and the world is not the same. Said you waited for a warning, but the warning never came. Don't shine a light in my face. Said you waited for a warning, but the warning never.
Fate demanded I be singer of a new ballad about the candidate you wanted like a finger in your fruit salad, but were made to choke down. And never mind he didn't have supporters on the ground. Never mind a website that gave volunteers the runaround, and a platform, a policy that followed Biden's lead and didn't make a fucking sound. And then he takes the crown. Now that's ascension into power by immaculate election, cause no one really wanted it and no one should have trusted it. But don't you try to question it, cause Joe is not a fan of questions, but Joe is a fan of pointing fingers right in people's faces. Or if they're not in public spaces, Joe will try to poke a finger everywhere I won't mention. Joe's soul is molded and beholden more to power than the list of fucking speakers at the DNC convention, who gave us all a show of keeping AOC at bay, just so everyone can say they tried to censor her dissension. But if you still believe the progressives we've elected give a shit if we're protected, there's a bridge I'd like to sell you in a parallel dimension. You know they're just tech savvier with media relations, propagandist Instagram and public obfuscation. Better suited to assure you that they're here to have a conversation. Better suited to assure you they aren't actively supporting your eviction and your slide into starvation. Better suited to assure you they can tweet about your needs and offer hope and motivation while you drift into the weeds, but they partnered with the moccasins and gators and the reeds.
Another episode of Reefer After Dark, the show your parents warned you about. I had to find Spotify to turn off that lovely music by Jesse Jett. There we go. Now we should be able to hear each other well, right? But anyway, I have to. I think. Why is Twidget being weird? Why? Anyway. How are you, my friend? I am with Robert Buechner of Political Fight Club, aka Robert Durden. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think so. I usually, when new people are here to the show, ask similar questions. And one of the questions is, when did you first start smoking weed, and how was that first experience?
Oh, let's see here. I have a pretty cool first time experience. I started smoking weed. This would be when I started grad school. So we're talking like 2012, I think, summer of 2012. And I had just finished in chiropractic school. You do trimesters. Yeah. So you get like, there's no summers and you do 3 semesters a year. And you have like a week off in between each trimester. And after my first trimester, I went camping with a couple of my buddies on an island off the coast of Michigan. It's called a Manitou Island. And we went out there and we were camping for 3 days. And at that point, I'd never smoked weed, but my brother and 2 of my friends went and all of them smoked.
Right.
And they had been trying to convince me for years. My dad also went. So as the story went, we were sitting around the campfire, just drinking that first night. And my dad went to lay down in the tent and he snores super loud. And I was having a really hard time sleeping that night, despite having drank a little bit around the campfire. So they had all smoked weed and they still had some on them. So I actually went to my brother. I was like, dude, I can't sleep with my dad snoring like this. I'm going to actually try it right now. So we went and kind of like relit the campfire and stayed up late. And I smoked my first joint with them around that campfire. And I slept like a baby. And after that, I was basically like, this is pretty cool. Calms me down, helps me sleep. And I'm more or less like nowadays, I smoke basically every single day, dawn till dusk, at least in some effect.
Yeah.
What about you, man?
I think, I started with K2 and Spice because my sister was working at Walmart at the time. Right. And, couldn't get like drug reported. So that's that's what was available, and it was legal at the time and whatever. And so I started there, and it was okay. Like, it wasn't bad, right? But once I found real weed by goth chick who was like, "You want to go smoke weed in my car?" I'm like, "Yeah, let's go do that." Like, it's way better than whatever we're doing. And anyway, so Colin in the chat, I see.
What's up, Colin?
Right. I think we got Warren's here. He's just not using the right chat. Indy Left's here. All the fams here. But yeah, once I found real weed, it was like, that was it. And like where I used to live, Live Oak, we had like 3 interstates that like met up like right there in the town. The town was essentially like you got off to get on another interstate, right? And so the drug traffic in there was incredible, right? I could actually get real weed there, which was fantastic, right? But they yeah, that was my first one, and then it was essentially self-medicated until I got diagnosed with ADHD as an adult, and then realized it actually does help, right? So
yeah.
But got my medical card recently in Florida, which is super sweet, right? Everything's twice as expensive as it needs to be, but that's okay. I think I paid like $50 for like 3.5 grams of this orange juice here.
That's not too bad, but yeah, that's a little pricey.
Little high, but like it'll come down eventually. Like I'm not worried about it, right? Yeah,
I lived in Colorado for 4 years or 3 years after I worked in Boulder, and I lived in Loveland, which is north by Fort Collins.
Yeah.
And it out there has gotten down to like 10 a gram, basically what you would pay on the street nowadays. I mean, it depends on the dispensary and what like level you want.
My uncle over there, head of the gang unit over there in Pueblo, Colorado City, was part of that.
Yep.
And when weed got legal over there, it was like, he was like, "Oh, it's way easier. Like I don't have to worry about that anymore as a cop. Like that's I'm good."
Yeah, for sure. Colorado is a haven, man. I loved it out there. I miss it for a lot of that stuff. Although it is like legal in Illinois now where I live, it's a lot more expensive. There's not as much variety. It's lower quality, stuff like that. But we'll get there eventually. Every state's going to do it. It's overwhelmingly popular with Americans. It's crazy that Joe Biden hasn't legalized it already.
I don't know about you, but a lot of the stoners I've talked to, they sometimes get stuck in the older ways of like stonerdom, right? Of like, man, that shit's from California, man. Like, or they're fucking stuck in like, this Alaska shit, bro, is the best shit. It's just like, like, what's the strain name? What percentage? What, like, what are we? It's the region doesn't make a good weed. Good weed is good weed, like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
and depending on where it's grown, like if it's a strain that's from Alaska or that's like higher up from a colder place, but you try to grow it near the equator, it'll suck.
It's not going to work as right. Yeah,
I grew while I was out there too, because you can grow 6 plants. So I've been growing for like 6 years now. And they out there, you could get something that's like Alaskan Thunderfuck, but it doesn't grow terribly well in
down
Colorado.
here.
You got to get something that like it's at the same, what is that, latitude? So like, or longitude, I can't remember. I'm stoned. But yeah, the depending on where you grow it naturally or where the seed comes from also affects the weed too. So
yeah,
I just go with, and I don't even care about the THC content. I've had stuff that's like 18% THC that'll knock you flat.
Knock you out, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but then there's in Colorado, I actually saw a Blue Dream strain that was 37% THC. That's the highest I've ever fucking seen. And believe it or not, it wasn't even all that good. I mean, it was like an average weed. It looked like a crystal. But
yeah, I mean, that's the thing is like with THC content like that, you also have to worry about like the CBDs that are blocking it and all that stuff, and when you get into the molecular chemistry of all the shit, it gets pretty weird. But I think that's like I've seen 40% somewhere. Like I know there's crazy ones out there that are like that's super high. That's I've never seen anything like that. Yeah, I mean, plus at that point, just distill it and like pull some butane through it and let it sit and whatever. I mean, I'm not gonna give you the recipes, but like that's how you do it. But no, I mean, weed at this point like has become like we've it's nice to be able to shift from like only your dealer having whatever he has to now being able to go to the store and like buy whatever is there, you know.
Yep.
It's
Definitely.
super nice. Like,
I'm definitely more of a sativa dude.
I had normally I am too. Right. Well, like it's weird for me. I'm supposed to have like all three essentially, right? But like with ADHD, you're supposed to do sativa for anxiety and stuff in the morning, and then like indicas at night to help get to sleep and whatever. But you know, most of us are like have used indica for long enough because it's what's been available, right? That it's like most of us old hats still function even then. It depends on the one, but I took like I don't know, like 20 milligrams of indica a second ago, so we'll see how that goes. That was like at like an hour ago, so it'll probably be kicking in pretty soon. So
so you're gonna fall asleep in the middle of this.
Hopefully not. That's I've got sativa in here just to balance it out, right? You've got to like you got to just ride the line there, but yeah, I mean, I love that stuff. As far as like once I found it, it was just like, oh, this is the stuff that works. I appreciate it. It lets you brain slow down and stuff like that, which when it's going a mile a minute like mine is nice, you know.
Yeah.
But but yeah,
I like to keep both on hand, man. I like to keep both on hand. I usually it's sativa most of the day, and then right before bed I'll do something heavy.
An indica or whatever. Yeah.
My wife is exactly not the opposite, but she just kind of an indica gal all day long.
Yeah.
And that's how she functions best. But if I start in the morning with one of those, I immediately want to go like sit on the couch, and it doesn't bode well for like if I want to go mow the lawn or do laundry or something like that. So we try to keep both, and we got a hybrid sativa and an indica. So
I mean, I wonder what like, dude, Joe Rogan has to be like IV'd sativa at this point because that guy's doing way too much shit to have any indica in his system. It's ridiculous.
For sure. He mainlines weed, kind of like me. Like
I tried watching
from dawn till dusk.
He had recently a philosopher, quote unquote. I don't know where you get your philosopher cards at, but I'll take one. But like it was talking about, it was like, dude, I either wasn't high enough, right, or I was too high, one of the two. And it was just like, so you got Galileo and consciousness, and he took out consciousness and put consciousness back in. And what is consciousness? And I'm like, bro, I can't, Joe. And then it like flips to Joe, and it's like, so I don't understand. Can you like? It's like, no, none of us understand, Joe. Like we don't get it. We're just here.
Too much indica for me, and that's why I won't do it before I get on a show like this. I can't, like, my brain doesn't work well. So I just, I stay away from that until before bed.
Your brain doesn't work well. Yeah, exactly. Yep. But
I'm just kind of like sitting back and drooling and stuff like that.
So what, like, when did you, so you started smoking then, right? On that trip, right? And like, it was essentially just Donkey Kong after that? It was every day, right?
No, after that, it was mostly on the weekends for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And then after that, I started to realize, once I got like figured out in Colorado that I could like grow my own stuff, it was like, then I had basically unlimited amount, and it had nothing to do with like my finances anymore. And at that point it was like every day. And ever since then I've had like, a fair amount of seeds on hand, just doing my thing. I don't grow much anymore, but I know somebody, let's just say in the area, that has back problems, and I'm a chiropractor. So I trade my services to help them out, and they hook me up. Is basically
that's the interesting. I've always looked at like chiropractors as like, well, you have the classic guy who was like, the ghosts are gonna fix your bones, right? That was you go all the way back there, right? But now it's become like, I mean, what's the guy that takes the hammer and cracks the shoulders and all that nonsense? Who's that guy? I know the guy who does it on all the celebrities now.
I don't know. That's an old technique that almost no one uses that shit anymore. Chiropractors are weird. They're in two different camps nowadays. There's like the functional medicine dudes who are trying to like mold chiropractic with like, vampire facials. And I don't like those guys too much. I feel like they just try to make a lot of money off of stuff that necessarily doesn't work. But then there's the purists who are more like me, which is I just treat like musculoskeletal pain and posture.
Yeah.
So I don't try to do anything other than just like I bring you in, like I figure out what hurts, I'll figure out what's out, I'll adjust your entire body and then tell you to go like, put ice on any sore areas.
I recently
And we just kind of
one of these things, which are the best $70 I've spent in a while, right? Like,
oh yeah, that's an impulse gun
like cheap,
or
cheap Theragun or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep. We had one of those in my old clinic. Those are really awesome. That's called an arthrostim. It's pretty cool. It works for sore joints and muscles.
I mean, and I do a bunch of, with my like martial arts background, it's like I've constantly worked on flexibility and like skeletal stuff and like those weird muscles that no one ever works, all those stability things and all that nonsense. So I've got all the bands and the foam rollers and the fucking, it's like at some point you end up, if you're gonna break down your body a lot, you end up trying to put stuff back in to like recover, right? So
yeah, and it's all like it's super important nowadays with how much time we spend on our phones and like on our computers to like make sure your posture doesn't get all hunched over. So like that's my thing is like I do postural correction.
Yeah.
And I adjust the way that you've seen, like, if you've seen on YouTube, like I crack everything. And if somebody wants something done, I can do jaw, I can do toes, I can do whatever, but I don't do anything beyond that. Like I know how to, I do a little bit of nutrition and like exercise and stretching. But other than that, I'm just like, try to eat healthy, stretch if you can, drink lots of water.
But have you ever done
smoke some weed here and there?
Have you ever done DMT?
I don't tell my patients that, but it'll help.
Have you ever done DMT? Like,
I have not. I
recently only just like done mushrooms for the first time, and that was fun. So
yeah, little psilocybin for you.
Yeah,
that's
shout out to
being
Matrix Genetics if you've seen them around Twitter.
No, I haven't.
Yeah, chocolate bars, so they work pretty well. They got instructions for how to get those, so go find them.
Hell yeah, I might have to. I've never done psilocybin either.
Yeah.
But I've heard even medicinally, there's a lot of stuff coming out nowadays with psilocybin and DMT where it helps with post-traumatic stress and like anxiety.
Well, I think it's one of those things for me that like, it's my father's a mental health counselor, so it like a lot of that stuff, like but through religion and these things tend to have very religious experiences when people do them, right? It's almost, there's like cheat codes to mental health in there, right? That people probably don't understand, right? But when your brain starts trying to physically manifest its own psyche, there's very common things that happen, right? So, applying those two things, right, between a lot of it's like awareness, right? Being aware that you might be having problems, stuff like that, like to keep yourself from having bad trips and stuff like that is to not focus too much on any of it, like a good meditation, right? If I've made it, it's to let those thoughts go by, right? And then like catch up with your other ones, right? But
yeah, psychedelics are really being found out to have a lot of like medicinal uses. In Boulder, Colorado, where I used to work, there was a camp that you could go to that was like a meditative experience for a couple of days where they would use ayahuasca, which is like what the Indians used to use. And the way that you would do that is you go out there with a couple of counselors, and they just call them like gurus or whatever.
Yeah, Ron White went and done it. I remember, and it's pretty. Yeah, he talked about it on Rogan recently because of course he did.
And that helps too, and that's specifically for people that like have trauma. It's not like a weekend retreat. It's not like you're going out there to have fun. But I had a coworker who really had some issues, and they had gone out there and done it twice, and both the times that they did it, they noticed a ton of emotional like release. And with ayahuasca, the way that works is like they grind it into a paste. It's like a plant, and you drink it, this like nasty milkshake. And what they do is they take you after you're sitting in this circle with a couple other people there, and you're, around the campfire again. And what they do is they take you to your individual room, and they have like a counselor watch you as you trip. And the trip lasts, a day or something like that. And sometimes you get a little sick, nauseated, dry mouth.
Well, it lasts like an exact time, apparently, right? Like it's like
I don't know if
come
it's an
in at the end
exact
of the room. This is what Ron White was saying, right? Was that it was like they know that it's going to be over like now.
Yeah,
right?
Vaguely. Pretty close.
They just come back in like, okay, it's done, and then you're just like suddenly out of it, right? Like
Yep. And after that, usually it's like helped, unlock pathways in your brain that you just had repressed, and you have come to some sort of like emotional well-being that wasn't there before, and it like helps you rewire. And like, you know, I got some stuff that I wouldn't mind getting rid of in that way. So I don't know what I'm going to do. Eventually I'm going to kind of work my way up. I'm going to do all those things that we've mentioned here. Well, DMT is the ultimate one. That's the one I'm working my way up to, like as the, you know, the last bastion for helping me with any like, you know, psychological trauma.
Well, and a lot of people feel like those psychedelics are like, you know, the what is it, psychonauts, right? That they're trying to go into their own psyche as far as they can, like an astronaut would space, right?
Yep.
You know, and those get real weird. I feel like we should go into business and start like a spa that's just called the Joe Rogan Experiences, and it's just gonna be like DMT, and then you're gonna go in an ice bath, then we're gonna go in the sauna, we're gonna talk to Wim Hof for a bit, like. You know,
dude, just
random nonsense that Joe's like, yep, I like that tea. That tea's delicious. You should have that tea. Like, you know, but anyway, I do have some visual treats for us, as I do every week. So before we get too high, we should probably get into those. Let me pull up my presentation screen. And I just wanted to wish everyone a happy Chorky Day, belated happy Chorky Day. You know, I think this is a cake, but I mean, it's definitely some cake for sure. But I just found it funny. It was in our funny, and I thought it was, you know, timely. I think I've got some other timely things. Let me make sure you have my audio, right? I got to patch those wire together. Jimmy, hold that wire. All right. Once Jimmy holds that wire, we should be good, right? But this is this guy. I don't know if you've seen this guy on TikTok at all, but I think it's on Instagram. Everyone should go check out that channel right there. But this is during Thanksgiving. He's done this a few times, right? But he just goes up to people and like acts like they dropped weed, and he just gives them the weed.
That's awesome.
You know. So, but like,
let me see. Oh no, you don't gotta share it with me. You want to share it with me? Yeah, share it with me.
I love how who he gives it to.
Like another joint in there. You might as well keep the whole thing. Enjoy.
And like,
it looked good.
They definitely didn't think they were getting weed today.
Oh shit, bro.
You just made her week.
Right.
You dropped your weed? Shit, smell good. Probably go good with the Thanksgiving meal and all of that.
Oh. No, it's not ours.
I'll keep
Just like weed Jesus.
Oh, you got some
Weed Jesus. I feel like that was just Jesus.
Yeah,
Jesus,
right. Yeah, they
know?
just didn't write about it in the Bible. They left that part out.
Well, I mean, they did write about Moses needing to burn bush to be able to talk to God, but
that's true. That's true.
You know, I love this whole. It's like, where did you find that? Like,
you can smell it?
No.
Oh, you just heard it?
I heard it.
Oh, okay.
Look at this jar. Which one's
you want some? I fucking love this. What you dropped your weed, old lady.
Oh, no. Not mine.
That's not yours?
Not mine.
Oh, excuse me.
But he's done it to like, he's brought whole plants and stuff and just given like, this your weed plant? Like, it's just hilarious. But
he's a saint.
Oh, the best. Like, why does that not happen to us? We just apparently are going to the wrong stores. That's what we're doing. You know.
Yeah, I have mentioned with Ian on Political Fight Club a couple of times that one of the things that we might do is like guerrilla politics, or like this, you know, little stunt that we might do is just go take some like spare seeds that I have left over and just start like planting them randomly in like people's gardens around my neighborhood.
Yeah, church community gardens and
exactly right, dude. Yep.
You ever seen seed bombing and stuff like that? You've seen that, right?
No.
So
is that where they slingshot it? Like,
yes, you can make them. So it's literally like potting soil, clay, right, and like your seeds, and you mix the whole thing together, right, and then you make little balls out of that, and then that's you put that in your slingshot, and you can like sling little seeds out and stuff.
That's a good idea.
That's you know,
definitely a Project Mayhem thing. Although it's not really Project Mayhem, because I think that would cause the opposite of mayhem. But
well, it's like that. Guerrilla grafting is another thing that happens, where like, you know, the city will have like fruit trees that won't fruit because they got a non-fruiting variety, right? So instead of feeding the community with fruit trees that they could like people could go get fruit at, right? So what grafters will do is they'll take a fruit tree that fruits, right? And they'll graft it onto the non-fruiting variety that the city put on, right? And then essentially the tree's going to start fruiting at some point off those branches, right? So they'll come in and like replace all the branches and stuff and graft in fruit, which is like I love those moves, right? Where people go and like remove like skate stoppers were the bane of every person's existence for a while, right? And like there'd be guys that go out there and just grind them off in the middle of the night, you know, or unscrew them, right? Those are the best.
Hell yeah.
But now they have those like spikes to keep like people from sleeping on stuff, right? Or they put those bars between a bench. And there was one like the other day that was like, hey, just in case you wanted to know, that's just an Allen wrench that like puts that middle bar on there. So, you know, if you want to just take that off, like it's just
hell yeah, man.
It was just like whatever it was that you needed to get like to undo those, you know?
Yeah, man. But that's what political fight club's all about. I mean, I talk shit online, but one of the other things I try to convince people to do is like fuck with the system, but be kind and do it in a way that like helps your fellow poor people. And that's what I think. We've been talking about direct action a lot on a lot of the shows that we've been going on right now. And the one things that I've been reiterating is what can individual people do, right? And the answer is so much. You know, when Extinction Rebellion just got a guy on a plane, right? And that was enough for people to talk about it, right? Like, if you can disrupt the system legally and in a way that just, like, gets you seen and gets your, like, message seen and then parlaying that into actual action, which is the difficult part, right? You know, how do you get those events to do that? You know, it's a whole but like more of that, like more of going to those politicians and being in their face and, you know, with a camera, you know, shout out Colin, you know, he's somewhere in the chat here, right? But, you know, more of that. If they're going to go do performative nonsense, go outperform them. You know? Yeah. So, whatever, and be creative. Like I say stuff on my show all the time to give ideas, but like there's a bunch of smart people out there that know like more about how to fuck with certain systems. You know, you've seen the movie Fight Club. Just, you know, go out and fuck with the system. And the way that I try to motivate people into doing it is I try to make it seem like it's fun. You know, like it kind of is. As long as you're not going to get, you know, fucked up by the cops by doing something stupid. Go fuck with the system, get it on tape. It'll be fun. And you might even go viral for doing it. And here's the thing. There's a weird, like, you know what memeing is, right? You know, there's a way to like create almost like a fad with some of this stuff by simply filming yourself doing stuff and then putting it online so that it catches fire. Like if we can get the the ALS ice bucket challenge to become something that everybody does, how come we can't make like fucking with Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema or the Squad something fun that everybody does?
The guy who kayaked out to that guy's yacht, right? Like with the like, that's such a good move. Like why do we not know every boat name for every like politician in the just, you know, it's got to be somewhere, you know, and just go see where they're docked at, you know? Like that kind of thing. Show up with a camera and, you know, be like, oh, this is a lovely boat you have. Can, like, you know, how much does this cost and this cost and this cost? And, you know, like,
I love that shit. And I want more of that. And I want people to like, I'm hoping with like what I'm talking about in my show that I can convince some people that activism is like something that's not only worth doing on principle, but also worth doing because it's fun and also because it's necessary. So like, I love, that's like my Project Mayhem is like fucking with politicians is basically what I want to happen. But I want it to be something that like, you know, in France, they see it as something hilarious to go fling a whole bunch of elephant shit at Emmanuel Macron's house. So why don't we do that in America? Like we tend to be kind of like aggressive online, but why are we not taking that aggression and pointing it towards politicians and oligarchs, CEOs, billionaires? So I wish we would do that, change that mindset, change our culture.
We've been shown by police to like, you know, that may not be beneficial to our health to do that either. You know,
and so you have to be brave in a way. You have to be brave in a way and willing to like take the chance to like, you might get in some trouble. But like you get the ball rolling the opposite way. And we make sure that the police don't become like overly militarized. Like some of these other countries, they don't even have police officers that have like sidearms. They have like a taser or a baton or both, but like they can't kill you. And once you get to that point, then you're like France, where it's like they'll riot at the drop of a hat, and the police will be like, you know what, we better let them get this out of their system, and the politicians are going to give them what they want, and then we're not going to get hurt, they're not going to get hurt, and everything works the way it's supposed to. The problem
Manchester
in America,
United beat Spain, so we're
gonna riot. We're gonna flip some fucking cars.
Exactly.
But in this country, the police are largely like kind of like a lapdog for the oligarchs. They're basically there to be like private security. So if you fuck with their bottom line, they'll make up a reason to bounce your head off the sidewalk. So it's more dangerous to do that shit. And I don't have a way to get around that other than just tell people to be brave and don't let the cops catch you.
And also like learn, so the Gracies, right, who are a jiu-jitsu family, have been doing this whole push for like cops to like learn their stuff, right? And mainly because it's about control and less dominance and beating people and whatever. So slight better, right? I'll take that, right? Granted, it also can cause its own problems, but it leads to like the less we can have cops physically engage with things, right? But jiu-jitsu is also the place where Eddie Bravo can go do competitions where if you win, you get a pound of weed. Like, it's also full of those guys. So, the more those two interact, hopefully the better. We can just get cops all stoned as shit so they can't actually do anything, and, teach them jiu-jitsu and, whatever. But they talk about like, it's that learning it for them. It's the whole training system needs to be there's so much that needs to be changed on any of that for change to actually happen, right? That it's very frustrating for most of us. But I've been trying to get into that program. It's online. I think it's like a sponsor sort of situation. You have to get like sponsored to go in, and I feel like as a journalist I should be able to like have an argument to like, hey, I should also be, we talk about a lot of like, police brutalities and stuff like that. It would be nice to know what's actually being trained, right? But I hope that can happen. I think it's like $300, something like that. But learn the same stuff.
It'd be cool if we could figure out a way when eventually when this country kind of goes to shit, and you and I talked about it, we've seen like that that skid steer with like the SWAT team wall on the front that has like all the SWAT behind
dogs, all
what
that
we
fun
need to
stuff.
do, dude, it's fucking scary as hell. What we could do is load like a crop duster full of weed and like dust them, and then they'll all, or like, how about a super soaker full of LSD?
You need like
a bunch
tear
of them.
gas
We'll just spray it.
Full of Gorilla
and
Glue.
then they won't exactly. Then they won't want to fuck with us anymore. As far as like the police brutality thing goes, this is why I try to be like, I try to be nuanced when I talk about police in this country, and I'm not an ACAB guy. I'm for like defunding the police, but like I don't agree with like the sentiment that like all cops suck, because only a Sith Lord deals in absolutes,
which is an absolute.
Plenty. Right, exactly. So there are plenty of good cops who are just trying to like, they understand that their profession has some dickheads in it, but like they need their paycheck. So like what I try to do is like, I take it on an individual basis, and I understand that like not all cops are assholes. A lot of cops would probably love for them to not have so much firepower, and for them to be like, higher educated in terms of like, maybe you need a bachelor's degree in like social science to become a police officer, and you have to like understand how to de-escalate situations. There's a lot of cops out there that would agree with me on that. They think that's probably the way the system needs to be. But there's also these aggressive like high school bully types with an IQ like Forrest Gump that basically they get recruited by the militarized police force in America, and a gun gets put in their hand, and then those other cops go, oh fuck, well now we got to deal with baby Huey over here, who's just looking for a fucking reason to hurt somebody. So what I try to do is like take it on an individual basis. And here, coming full circle, what I try to do is like, I want those cops that are well-intentioned and that really do want to like make the world a better place.
Right. To start
hold your brothers responsible.
Yeah.
Right. Lead by example, but hold your brothers accountable. Try to do your best to like weed out the aggressive types on the police force. And, an argument can be made that we really just don't need this much fucking money going into this police force. Our police force is like the third highest military budget in the world. Like our military budget's number one, then it goes China's military budget, and then there's the US police force is number 3. So I think that there are some reasonable police officers out there that can go, yeah, you know what? I really don't think we need to be militarized and have skid steers and everybody dressed in fucking riot gear like the peacemakers in Hunger Games. And so I try to parlay with them. And in fact, I do treat a lot of like well-intentioned police officers at my chiropractic office as well. They're like, they're very reasonable people who would never hurt a fly. So I try not to be like an absolutist on that front. And I think that in the end, change comes through us trying to defund the police via like legislation or forcing our politicians to do it.
From, I live in the South here where, it's not as easy to argue with like, with just complete absolutes that way, right? Where it's like, I have to be like, because their brother works there, they're, it's like they're too closely connected to that environment to be able to be objective anyway, right? And when they hear defund the police, even that scares them. Right? Because they've been afraid to even reduce police force in general, right? But really, we're asking the same thing we've always been asking, right? Which is reform and make it to where it actually works for the people, not, whatever, like, I think it was Jimmy Dore who had on, I'm trying to remember his name. He doesn't have him on anymore, but it was a police union guy, right, that left the union and started talking about like community policing panels and stuff like that, right? And listening to the experts in that regard. Like, I think stuff like they run out of tools, right? Cops are only as good as the tools we give them, right? And when they couldn't de-escalate verbally properly, right? They feel the need to engage physically, right? Whether that be with, non-lethals, which are on their tool belt, right? Some of them can cause problems as well. When those don't work, right? They're left to using like, the billy club that's also in their tool belt, or, some other form of physical altercation, which if jiu-jitsu's the case, usually tends to be about control. Right, we're going to take someone down, we're going to put them in the mat, we're going to keep them there until like backup can arrive, right? That kind of thing, which if we're going to ask people to arrest people and take people physically against their will to somewhere else because of some law that they've broken, right? We're going to have to think about having people actually trained in how to do that without hurting someone. That's and eventually what's left if none of those work, right? There's only a couple more tools on that tool belt, So, I feel that way with like, we don't teach them social skills at all to deal with like mental health problems. We don't teach them warning signs of like that kind of stuff, like how many drunk people get away being drunk doing dumb stuff because they're drunk, right? Because people know what drunk looks like, including cops. Right? But they're told to fear people on PCP or people on whatever, or who's having a psychotic breakdown or any of those things are a lot more likely to get you killed or shot, like than you just being drunk in the street doing practically the same thing, right? Like, there's a lot of that. So plus you get the whole like racial issues involved with that, and societal issues involved in that, issues with our entire judicial system. Like, once you get your eyes open to one problem in that system, it's just like you go down the rabbit hole of the problems that we're having to deal with,
and mental health and not having Medicare for all is a huge problem for cops. And I don't think they realize that, like, and socioeconomic issues in this country, like inequality and poverty, also greatly increase fanaticism and extreme behavior, and preponderance of people that basically feel like they don't have anything to live for, anxiety, panic attacks, psychotic breaks. All of that stuff is a product of a capitalist system that has pushed its population to the brink. So like if you fix the inequality and the out of control capitalism in this country, you ultimately take a lot of the pressure off of the cops. And then a Medicare for all, allowing people to for free access mental health would help reduce all of this shit. So like a lot of the even substance abuse, or like you said, PCP, a lot of people don't have to turn to that shit for escapism. If they live in a system that treats they treat them like, if their system treats them like humans, then you inevitably like reduce all of these violent interactions that cops necessarily have to put themselves into. So like systematically, the way that we need to fix a violence problem and even police brutality, if you want to rip it out at its root cause, you really have to like destroy capitalism. You have to make sure that everybody has mental health, but also that they have enough money to like live in decency. And then what you end up having is like all of these, you know, diseases of despair, drug addiction, psychotic breaks, fanaticism, extremism. They all go away as you fix the capitalism problem. So that's like inevitably, like if I had my say and I were king of the world and I would try to fix this problem, I wouldn't be like, well, we really need to do is like, you know, make sure that the cops don't have as many weapons, which that is important. The root problem is making sure that the mental health of the society doesn't produce a whole bunch of like of these situations where people feel the need to use weapons. And then what would happen is then the police would go, there's no fucking reason for us to have these weapons because there's barely any violence going on because there's no mental health issues and there's no, you know, big issue with
financial
like, you know,
problems
addiction. So like, I mean, I'm not saying that the like defunding the police wouldn't be a great step. And that is my first step if we can get it done legislatively. I don't think it's going to happen in this country. I think the best way we can do it is try to like get everybody healthcare, mental health, and try to destroy the system that puts us in like this constant state of stress and psychosis.
Well, I think being able to talk to those, including talking to cops, because they look, that's a job for them. It's not, you know, it like you're working with people that are, you know, working class at least, you know, like that kind of thing, depending on how much money they make and their pensions they get and all that stuff. Like a lot of them are hurting for cash too. And when you explain it to those people that these things can help you, right, including, you know, they hear defunding as like they're going to lose money, of course, right? Not that it's going to be money's going to be reallocated, right, to them. I'd rather be paying them, right, to actually do their job, right, and get the pension they deserve for doing a difficult job, that kind of stuff. You know, it's like their unions aren't doing that. Right, they're, you know, the unions are there to just protect them now from like bad court cases that they don't want to be involved with, right? So, you know, but it's again, it's direct action against those individuals that have to deal with it, right? And you know, if they're constantly having to deal with, you know, some protest or another over them, like it starts to sink through because they show up to listen because they have to, right? Because it's their job to show up. Right, so, you know, like when the 60s were putting flowers in guns, that worked, you know, for a period of time until they realized how to deal with those guys. And that was to give them money and let them like get out of their system. And then it backfired because all those people wanted to keep their money. Right, so, you know, you have to like, hopefully our generation will be a little smarter than that. But, you know, we'll see. You know, I do like to have some optimism in my back pocket with all my cynicism, but you know, it's getting harder to have that there, you know. I don't know about you.
I really don't see, it's difficult for me to think that there's any chance that they're going to start defunding the police and that they're going to start like a new vetting process. It seems to me that the militarized police is exactly the way that the elites actually want it right now. And they don't want a vetting process that produces intelligent, empathetic police that don't want to resort to violence. It seems to me they're doing exactly the opposite. They know that the shit, meaning the elites know that the shit's about to hit the fan. So they want like kind of low IQ, aggressive types that are kind of looking for a reason to hit somebody. And that's the real problem. Like, and that's why I don't expect that anytime soon that our legislators are just going to go, well, I think we need to defund our personal guard these
Yeah.
big goons behind me with the ARs,
Yeah, of
because
course not.
that's the only thing standing between me and the proletariat, basically just like tearing down the system that makes me a whole bunch of money and like burning my house down. So
Right.
like they need those kind of like brainless goons to escort them at this point. So it's by design that the police force is the way that it is.
Yep.
But we've seen in other countries, it can be way different. If you have a good vetting process and educate people, and like,
You
meaning
make
police
prisons
officers
not
get
private. You make
exactly
them,
right.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
you try to pick people to be police that are in fact like people that the last thing they want to do is hurt someone, and that's the reason
Right.
they want to be a cop. If you can
Yeah.
get those people to be the police force, you have a wonderful police force, and
Right.
it can be done. You know, we've seen it in European countries where they have very little crime. There's almost no deaths. I think in like
Where
some of the
people
Scandinavian
also want
countries,
to
they don't
avoid
kill
arrest.
anybody.
Yeah, and they do drugs
Right.
and they do whatever. Yep. It's like that. Well, and we'll get to it in a bit, right? You know, it's they use the same tactics to like control the people anyway, put fear and all that stuff to like, so people feel like they need the cop presence, right? You know, and those same people put out stuff like I had to press the button so the people can see, right? But you know, they put out stuff like this just for around Thanksgiving. You know, remember the cranberry sauce, but forget the marijuana. Don't get the marijuana. Terry was convinced to take a toke of a joint with his friend just to relax. Immediately after, Terry killed his friend who had given him the marijuana in a murderous craze. Not so safe, is it? I mean, I think this is definitely a parody, but, you know, it wasn't that long ago that we had the real versions of this, you know? Like, do you remember the what was, like, there was 2 PSAs that I remember more than any other one. Right? There was the one where the guy like took the shotgun or whatever. Like there was that one, right? And it was just like, you know, not everyone is like Kurt Cobain, guys. Like that's not the problem.
Right. I remember that one too.
You know. And there was the one where the lady was flat. Do you remember that one? Where it's
that
like,
I don't
since
remember.
she's been taking marijuana, this is how she looks all day, and it was just like the 2-dimensional.
Oh yeah,
like,
right. She's laying on the couch.
couch.
Yeah, I remember that one.
I made the first time I made like really good like edibles. I made like 4 sticks of butter, like an ounce of weed, right? And like I put it in the sous vide machine and put it exact temperatures for time. And then my buddy, like I gave 2 sticks because we like split it. I gave it to my cousin Joey, who's like Joey Diaz level edibles. It's like it must go with the name, but like he made a grilled cheese with the butter. That's what he did, right? Like, and like I think he must have used like the whole 2 sticks I gave him to do it, right? And like he came in and that's what he looked like, was just the flat lady, right? Like, and I'm just
and
like,
what's wrong with that? What's wrong with that?
Bro, are you high? Nah. Like, nah.
Yeah, man. Weed was originally demonized to basically make us afraid of Mexicans. If I remember correctly, I saw a documentary where they taught like all of that shit was like, you know, basically to make white women in this country afraid of like black people and Mexican people.
Yep.
And
the counterculture and the hippies and all that stuff. I mean, there's tapes with Nixon talking about it, right? Where that's what it's for. Right, and then you know, like it's all dumb, you know, and it originally starts because of a paper mill guy doesn't want like hemp to be grown, right? Like because hemp's better at like paper, and the only thing is he owned all the paper companies, like the newspaper companies, right? Because they needed paper to do what they needed to do, right? So, but what else I got today? The day after marijuana is legalized in the South, just.
Yeah, right.
Deep fried leaves. Why is it the South only does like fried vegetables? I'm down for it, but
hey, it looks delicious to me. They look like weed chips,
don't they? I'm really. The thing is, you have to decarboxylate those first, right? You know, and then they probably wouldn't be very strong. You'd probably have to eat like a whole bag of them.
Yeah, probably.
You know? So, did you see the tweet I made about the mice? That there was I'll find it here in a bit. It was something from some local news station thing on Twitter that was like police report that 12,000 pounds of marijuana were eaten by mice in a like.
Actually, I do think I did see that. I did see that.
Apparently, that guy got fired because
Oh man,
it wasn't mice. Who would have thought that it wasn't mice that took 12,000 pounds of marijuana a day, away? Anyway,
those would have been some very happy mice.
There are some dangers to smoking. There is a few, right? One of them being situations like this.
This ain't scary at all. Get this side of it. This ain't scary at all.
Oh.
Wee!
Oh shit! Oh shit!
Wee! Dude, I hope he lands in the water. That's what I hope.
This ain't scary at all.
Like, that's what?
That's a
30,
long
40
fall.
feet? Yeah.
Jeez.
Do you think stoners are like cats? Do they always land like feet first and then they're good? Or like
no, I imagine they're probably more like rag dolls. They just kind
of like that sucks, man. That would be like you were chilling with your homie, right? But anyway.
And the sensation of falling 40 feet has to be really, really uncomfortable if you're like super stoned too. It's like, oh no!
We were talking about Amsterdam, and I think they make architecture there just for stoners, right? But I will rep this flag. This is about the only flag I'll rep. It's the flag for the city of Amsterdam.
Hell yeah, man.
Right? So
one of the strains I have right now, our hybrid, is actually a Cannabis Cup finalist, I believe. It's called Amsterdam Cheese. It's pretty psychedelic.
You're welcome to mail it to me. I'm down. But there is a theme this week, but I just love these like themed bongs. One of my themed bongs broke like yesterday, right? It was the the Frosty the Snowman one, and it was like I was like, oh, it just like tipped over, pink, like and it broke. I'm like, what? What are you doing?
I hate that. I broke a couple of mine, and eventually what I did is I bought like a rubber one. It's like it can't break, it can tip over, whatever, and that one's been awesome. It was pretty cheap.
Let me show you. Recently, I've pulled this up on another one. There's two of them that are crazy that I've seen. Eventually, 420 Science will do like a Christmas gift purchasing. But do you see this? This one's aluminum. It's vacuum insulated, and it's like enamel on the inside, so it's actually glass. Right, and you can like pair it with one of the indestructibles, right, which like are aluminum downstem, right? Like, and so this one's it's like a thermos. It's a thermos bong.
Yeah, I had too much money invested in like every 6 months I would accidentally break one of my glass bongs, and I was like, dude, I gotta invest in something else. So luckily my friend had this one, and he had two of them actually. He's like, dude, I'll give it to you for like $20. So I bought it for $20, and no more problems. It's got an ice catcher in it and whatever.
Yeah, that one's nice because it was like you could fill it up with ice and do that, dude. I'm down. If anyone wants to get me that for Christmas, what I should do is like partner with 420 Science for like a wish list situation, and just like people can go buy the wish list stuff. And this is one I thought was fucking dope, straight dope. But this thing, I'm muting these lads because unfortunately I don't know how they feel about me playing their videos. But right, so this thing is a laser bong. It's got freaking lasers on its freaking head. So it literally, like, they get a shot of it. Yeah, look at that. Like,
shit.
It shoots a laser to light your weed. What kind of future bullshit is that? Like,
this is one of the times where I'm glad like we live in the technological age, because this seems awesome.
I love
and then
it.
I'll go and I'll research like the Great Reset and the metaverse, and I'm like back to being afraid again. But then there's stuff like this that keeps me hopeful for the future. Laser bong.
I have laser bong. All right, where is it? I have it here. It's just down. Where is it at? I'll find it. Here it is. Right? So these things, which are trippy as shit to watch, right, are for haptics in VR, right? So it's electrical, like bubble wrap in reverse, I think, right? And essentially imagine a full suit of those, right? Of these little squares, like little circles here, right? And that could give you the sensation of touch in VR,
Yeah.
right? And like it would just be about pixel density, right? After that, it would just be like how many of these dots could we put in, right? And like how forceful these dots can be, right? But yeah, it's just crazy VR nonsense. And I have a VR headset. I didn't buy it from Facebook. Let me be very clear. I am not buying Facebook's fucking VR. Like, fuck that.
That shit, this stuff scares the hell out of me. I gotta tell you.
I
As somebody
paid-
who writes like dystopian future,
Oh, I
like
know.
horror, this stuff is terrifying to me.
Have you watched? There's like 1,000 of them now that talk about like the where VR can go wrong, right? But I think one of the ones that I remember was in the Love, Death, and Robots one. I don't know if you
I haven't
watched
seen that. I know what you're talking about. I haven't seen it.
Have you seen? Are you caught up with The Expanse? Have you?
No.
Dude.
I just finished Squid Game yesterday.
Okay.
So I'm behind.
Have you watched Raised by Wolves?
No.
Like both, like all three of those we're gonna get on. We gotta get on Expanse first. Of course it's owned by Jeff Bezos now, but don't worry, we'll find ways. But it's actually a really legitimately good show. Raised by Wolves, which is on HBO, is another one that's like, if you're into like dystopian future stuff, right? Where I feel like Expanse is less than dystopian. It's actually somewhat uplifting, right? If that makes sense. Like about as uplifting as you can be in the capitalist system we are in, right? Which it takes a hard look at. Like if that, it's like, it's meant to be very near future, like maybe next like 20, 30 years, right? Where it's like we might have made it to the outer belts, right? And like to the edges of our like solar system, right? And that's where it kind of starts at, right? And it starts to get into the our like first contact, right? But it takes the approach of like aliens would probably look and act nothing like what we would think they would, right? You know, there's a classic deGrasse Tyson who talks about it. It's like, yeah, we wouldn't have bipedal things with stuff on their foreheads. You know, it's gonna be like a liquid. We're not even gonna be able to comprehend its like comprehension. They will think of us as ants. You know, like
Yep.
like that sort of thing. But
Yeah, anything that talks about that stuff is, you're right, that's hopeful. I
Yeah.
tend to think we're on the verge of something like Elysium or Dread,
yeah.
you know, like the new Judge Dredd,
Oh, it's
where like we're on the verge of like overpopulation and a huge militarized like global police force
Yep.
controlled by an oligarchy that lives on fucking Mars or
and
in a
space
space
travel
hotel.
is the next frontier, where
Yeah, dude.
people forget what the frontier was like. There was murder and, you know, explosions and cows getting out and war and like, you know, the frontier, even though it only lasted for like 4 years, was massively exploitative to the cultures that lived there. And yeah, it's like, yeah, space is going to be that, I'm sure. But The Expanse does deal with that, where it's like the Belters are like all oppressed working class individuals, and it goes hard in that environment.
I'm gonna have to give it a look.
It's
I don't
very
have a
good.
lot of time to watch TV. Like I watch like
Yeah.
an episode or two before bed sometimes.
Yep.
But lately, like the last Squid Game has been like the last week for me, and I quite
Yeah.
enjoyed that. That's very good as far as
I've
some.
heard good things.
'cause
I've not watched it.
I'm
have yet to
a
watch it.
writer. It's a very very honest like allegory for like capitalism. And
Yeah.
anybody that tells you, like, I heard that there's some people talking about it's an allegory for communism. Fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
It's a very effective
They're in a
allegory
capitalist
for
system
capitalism.
in that yeah, it's like, yep. It's literally capitalism. That's literally The game,
You'll enjoy it.
the
It's
Squid Game.
very brutal, but it's
Did you watch
quite
the,
good. And
did you watch the dub or subtitle?
Subtitle.
Okay, very good. You can read. Appreciate you.
Yeah, I don't mind reading.
Yeah,
I read quite a bit.
My uncle's one of the. Why are we reading? I'm like, what? Who cares? You read the TikTok videos when they come up.
As
like,
Bill Hicks used to say, "What you reading for?"
Yeah, exactly.
What am I reading for? I suppose it's so I don't become a fucking waffle waitress.
If you have more time to read these days, like Audible book or whatever, The Expanse is also a book series. So
is it?
That's what it started with. Actually, I think they started to write it as an MMO video game.
Okay.
And then it just turned into a series of books and now a television show. But anyway, this is in Detroit. People are real desperate out here in Detroit, right? You know, you got to steal other people's smoke. You know, you can't be out here. Dude, what are you doing? You got to ghost that. You can't let them take your smoke like that. You know, I just love
it looked
that.
like a pretty dense. It looked like a pretty dense cloud.
Dense
man.
hit, like he was like French inhaling it, and homeboy took it. Like whoop. You know,
they gotta be clever like that in Detroit, man.
Oh, I love that shit. Shout out Rome. He's over there, right?
Yeah, Rome's in Detroit. Yep.
This is what I want for Christmas. I don't know about you, but if you just
Hell
put
yeah.
that in my stocking, like
hell yeah.
I'm
Is that a bunch of nugs at the bottom, or is that keys?
Yeah, it looks like nugs at the bottom. Oh my god, dude, I hate our trees, which is the famous tree subreddit, right? For Home of the Ants. For all the stoners out there, they do these dumb things all the time of like, you know, what $40 gets you in wherever, or like one the other day was what $100 gets you at Legoland in Denmark, right? And it was just like Lego weed leaves, right? And like, anyway, they put one of just like what $20 gets because you make your own hash, and it was just like a brick, like
yeah,
this.
right.
I'm like, fuck you. Fuck you. Like, there's some crazy ones, but you know, just to get everyone in the Christmas spirit, you know, we're heading towards that now, right? You know, the day of consumerism today, Black Friday, right? You know, so we're already heading towards Christmas gifts and stuff. But you know, if you're getting cottonmouth out there is an answer. By the way,
if you get Leninade, whoever makes that, please, I will allow you to sponsor me.
You'll be paid by Big Seltzer.
No, yeah. I can't sell out, but I would if I were to sell out to one like product, I would not mind drinking Leninade on my show.
You ever watched? There's an episode of The Office where they have a birthday party for Oscar, right? And they're trying to be like, how do we make it like Spanish, right? And they didn't really have anything, and someone puts an Inya over the in a bottle of lemonade.
Yeah.
And I'll never not, and like they did it to something else, like they put another, and it was just like, I'll never not go lemonade. Like, I just find that funny. Now I want someone to make lemonade. Like, I would be very down, but look at this crazy, like, imagine if that's how you had to plug in your cell phone every day. Just like, what is that for? What is that cable for?
No idea. No idea.
It seems very important. Like, there's a whole like thing to like put it in and like snap and lock it. Like, anyway, it was just one of the things I found high this week that was like, what the fuck is that? Right? The world's there's general purpose. This is apparently something with general purpose. Digital world's first electric something or other. But anyway, I don't know. I thought it was weird. But I thought since you're a father, right, you would enjoy some Dad Zone. Like, I love it. This is the age you want to keep them at, is just right here. Just as long as they never get older than this.
They're cute back then, man, but now my daughter's 4 now, and she's pretty self-sufficient, which is pretty awesome. So as they get older, it's a little bit less time you have to spend watching every little thing they do. I missed those days, but not that much.
I found a thing that I showed Indy, because Indy's a data guy too. of like a data analyst who like plotted out every like diaper change and like feeding and like whatever that like him and his wife did, and like plotted it all out and then put it in XR. So it was like augmented reality bullshit in the video, right? And it showed like he took like he had like one strip in yellow that was like his, right? And it was like they showed like based off time and when it was, right? And it was like, this is why you get maternity and paternity leave, because like even though like his stint of like 3 months doing a midnight feeding meant she got like more than 4 hours of sleep, right? It was like, you know, just that little thing was like such a like massive, but it was just cool to see that kind of crap.
Yeah, people don't realize that. That's something that's tough. Like, you know, I've been home for the last year with my daughter and my wife, and I have learned a lot about like how difficult that shit can be to just like make sure don't get into trouble, don't stick your finger in the light socket, don't, you know, don't climb on this, don't do this.
Do you have a climber?
I caught her the other day. She had pulled she pulled a screwdriver out of our junk drawer, and I'm like, you can't be running around the house with a screwdriver. Give me that. How did you get that? And it, you know, like, you know, it is what it is. But now that she's getting a little older, I spent a little less time doing that, and I get a lot more sleep.
Right. There's
not a lot of sleep, but a lot more.
They make these like, where's the ones that are crazy? Here we go. Right. So like you put like a little, like you go get like like here, like one of these, right? And like when you have like a baby that like is a climber, right? Like it's like perfect for them. They can just do it without like getting hurt. And then they end up becoming like, look at this fucking, like what,
crazy,
what is that?
man.
What is that?
Look at that upper body strength, man.
You ever watched like Adam Ondra, stuff like that, the climbers who like he like free soloed El Cap, right?
No, I haven't.
The craziest thing is if you ever like see that guy, look at his hands. Like his hands are the most ridiculous things compared to him. Like he like it's all power to weight stuff, strong. Right? Yeah, and you're like hand strength is crazy. So his hands are like massive, you know, and they're swollen all the time because like that he like tears up his skin and stuff all the time, right? But anyway, I thought we were talking about like DMT and stuff earlier, right? So I don't know if you've ever seen this, right? But
the drug was administered in a drink of water given at the start of each day's exercise. 25 minutes later, the first effects of the drug became apparent. The men began to relax and to giggle. But this man was more seriously affected and had to be removed from the exercise.
So they gave
after 35 minutes,
a British platoon
one of the radio operators
LSD.
had become incapable of using his
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
And the efficiency of the rocket launcher team was also very impaired.
Yep.
10 minutes later, the attacking section had lost all sense of urgency. Notice the bunching and indecision as they enter a wood occupied by the enemy. Almost immediately, the section commander tried to use a map to find the location of troop headquarters, and a prisoner's escort had to have the way pointed out to him, although it was in plain sight, 700 yards away over open country. 50 minutes after taking the drug, radio communication had become difficult, if not impossible, but the men are still capable of sustained physical effort.
This is the reason why you need to make drugs like mandatory in the American populace. Not all drugs, but like Bill Hicks used to say, he's like, dude, weed should be mandatory. Because then we would chill the fuck out, you know. And I've often joked, not often, but I did joke way back in the day that it was like, if we could figure out a way to get like LSD into like the, you know, the Congress's water source for a day, like as a prank, we'd actually get some shit done in Congress because everybody would suddenly become like empathetic, goofy, docile,
work on their like that was, I love how Bill Hicks is like, yeah, it'll just chill us all out. Yeah. Cause you're real chill there, Bill. Right.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
You know, you're the Wired. It was him. And who was the guy before it? Like, I remember the bit where he asked the guy if he's like, are you married? Right. And he's like, no, good. Whenever you think about getting married, like, I just want you to remember this face. Ah! Like, it just starts, like, fucking screaming at the guy. And I figured that was Kinnison, I think. Right?
Yeah, Sam Kinison, I think.
Yeah.
He was hilarious, too. One of my heroes.
I watched recently Carlin eviscerate a heckler. And it's the, like...
Oh,
holy shit.
I think I know exactly the clip you're talking about.
Oh my God. We can't say half of it. Yeah, we can't say half of it, right? Like, and they talk about, when Chappelle got brought up, Carlin, made his way around because of his whole punching down thing, right? And it's like, yeah, do y'all know how he deals with hecklers? That's some ground and pound level punching down right there. That's some sometimes it's needed. Like,
yeah, with hecklers, I hate that stuff too. And the reason that Carlin and a lot of those people get pissed off, like Doug Stanhope does the same thing, where he'll just like try to piss off the crowd even more and really go after the person. And those are two of my heroes. But you got to understand, like, when you're a comedian, kind of like I am, when somebody interrupts you, that's like they're interrupting your art in a way. So it pisses you off. Like, it's not. And the other thing that drives me crazy about that type of person is like, what kind of person like pays to come in and watch you and wait to get pissed off? Like, you didn't come here to laugh. You came here to wait to get angry about something. So like, I don't agree that like when you go super hard at those people and like attack them personally, like the way Carlin did, but I understand the rage, because that shit pisses me off too. Like, I've had people come at me and take jokes out of context, and I'm just like, you're just a fucking heckler. Why you come on my show, watch a whole episode, wait till you get pissed off when you know I'm roasting people?
It's the
like,
best.
Go fuck yourself.
When it's like there was that video I talked to you about before we started the show about like comedy without airs, and they talked about, I've seen that's the best things are listening to comedians talk about when they have hecklers or they had a bad show or whatever and how they dealt with it, right? And like the ones for heckles are almost always, I made them leave. Like, that's what you do. You have the bouncers escort that person out because they're they're not going to be able to handle it well, right? But it's like, or it's, there was like a couple of different, you can generally either try to work with the heckler now and use it as like crowd work, right? Or just eviscerate completely, right? And some people literally just take that, hey, don't do that approach, right? Like, I think Louis was one of them, where it's like, hey, I'm doing a show here. Like, shut up, and go on back to like doing his bit, right? But like, I love those. Those are the best. The best ones are.
Yeah, with Carlin and Stanhope, they would basically like try to get the crowd to turn on him and be like, get the fuck out. Everybody around you is going to hate you. And I'm going to lay waste to you in front of everybody. Bill Burr has done that too.
Oh, yeah,
that's what I was going to say. Bill Burr has done that a couple of times too in epic fashion. One of his I think it's his Netflix specials, he goes after a lady. Like, and I'm like, dude, Bill, but he doesn't hold back. There's another clip of him doing that where he got heckled with 11 minutes left or 12 minutes left in his set. It's early on in his career, and he got so pissed off that he decided to just go for broke, and he counts down. He just fucking insults everybody in the crowd, every touchy group that he can think of, and then he goes, 11 minutes left, 8 minutes left, and everybody starts to boo, and he doesn't care. He just doubles down even further, and he goes for 11 straight minutes trying to piss off as many people as he can, and it's gold. It's gold. And I don't go for broke the way that he does, but sometimes in my roasts, man, like, I'm trying to piss people off. That's kind of like my thing. Is like, neoliberals deserve to be pissed off because they got this fake ass woke culture, and they're all about like, maintaining the established order and the oligarchy, which hurts everybody I know and all poor people. So I just go out there and get them on their like woke culture. And then what they do is inevitably they do that cancel culture bullshit, which I'm 100% against. But when they do that shit, they end up looking like a bunch of Karens. So that's what I try to do, is I try to piss them off to like exploit their Karenism.
Chappelle got like confronted again.
I saw it. It's bullshit.
I haven't seen it yet. I'm sure it is. It's like, I already know. It's like, it's by someone who hasn't watched, hasn't even... It's like that whole special. If you watched it, it's him trying to be a part of the conversation, right? And it's like, it's definitely not malicious, and it's definitely not coming from a terrible place. Like, to me, it's obvious nonsense.
But it doesn't matter. They'll go after him anyway because they're looking for a fucking reason.
Right.
He had Sticks and Stones already came out, so they're like just waiting for him to say something about trans people, and then they'll blow it out of proportion.
Right.
But anybody with half a brain in there,
it was almost like, hey, this joke is bad. The joke I'm about to say is bad, and here's why it's bad, but it's fucking funny, and help me out with that. Why is it
And
funny? Like what?
And all he is a genius comedian trolling cancel culture for 45 minutes. That's all it is. He goes, I know in his mind, he knows he's going to go viral if he talks about trans people regardless. So he has a conversation about it, and he trolls all of the people that get all worked up about that shit, which is just woke neoliberal shit zippers who really don't actually care about trans people. They're just looking to virtue signal about trans people. And so Dave can exploit that and knows he's going to go viral, and he just does it for 45 minutes. That's genius. That's not
moved to
him
Ohio.
hating trans people.
Dave moved to Ohio. He's in the middle of Ohio. He chose to not take millions of dollars from Comedy Central, right? He went to Africa, tried to learn some shit there, comes back, right? Lives in Ohio, does a few comedy gigs every now and again, right? And then COVID started happening the minute he thought, well, maybe I should start talking about stuff again, right? Like, and what, like, people act like he's not. Literally, the story in the show is him being in the middle of Ohio, interacting with a trans person, not misgendering ever, and generally feeling proud of them for, like, being able to do this in the town that they're in, right? Like, and that's, like, it's like people miss the messaging through his, like, you know, jokes. It's like,
and they do that on purpose. And that's what he's exploiting, is he goes, and you know, to some extent, that's exactly what I do on my show, is like, I'm trying to like make the Karen Zillas like blow a fuse, because they do this cancel culture bullshit to act like they actually give a shit about these, you know, in this case, trans people, but mostly it's just like marginalized groups. But the thing is, when you look at the people that actually get mad about those jokes, they don't in their real lives give a fuck about anything else. They're just virtue signaling so that their neighbors will think that they are woke, so that they can virtue signal about things.
It's like,
but the thing is that Dave actually does give a shit about everybody. If you know anything about him, he's like a humanist, but he knows he can trigger the fucking Karen Zillas by telling a joke like that, and by doing a special like that.
And it brings them to the conversation, which is like, it's like genius to me. It's like he's getting you riled up to then come talk to him.
Exactly right.
And it's
exactly right.
You know, like there's, to me, it's like, he's also got bits, like we've all got dumb bits in there too. Like, our heads are full of nonsense most of the time, but most of us are, like, especially the comedians, tend to be the most well-read. That we're constantly looking for material. We're constantly looking for that stuff. You know, it's like, yeah, of course I've got bits about asking G's how to eat pussy. Like, of course I've got. Of course I've got that. Like, that's, you know, the 80s montages, licking peanut butter out the jar. Like, yeah, I know how to tell that story. But, you know, like, I also am going to have the jokes. Like, you look at Jimmy Dore, who can be political and, like, whatever. And Chappelle does that beautifully. His whole bit about, like, 18 minutes or whatever, like 8.5 minutes. Right? Like, is killer. He's the reason I know who Emmett Till is. Right? Like, you know, to me, those are the things of, like, he's constantly done that. He's done stuff with Maya Angelou and, you know, like, crazy collegiate, like, you know, whatever. And Chappelle, you gotta understand, he made it through the comedy scene at what age? Like, he was doing like Eddie Murphy age spots.
14.
Like, it's and he was that good that soon. Like, that's unheard of.
Yeah, Chappelle's a fucking genius. And Carlin, to a large extent, also, he believed that you need to go after any type of group that gets a little too big for their britches. You know, they get a little bit too sensitive. And he talked about feminists back in the day.
Bernie Mac, right? Who I feel parallel, like Chappelle, I think, watches what Bernie Mac did quite a bit, right? Because Bernie Mac, I think the Def Jam special that he puts on, where he comes out and goes, man, I ain't scared of you motherfuckers, right? And like, that's how he comes out to a crowd that had just, like, The Last Comic bombed, right? You don't see The Last Comic bomb in the special, but The Last Comic was getting, like, booed at the Apollo, which is like a level of booing that most people haven't experienced, right? Like, and it's like, but it was just, and Bernie Mac comes out and essentially does, like, my dick's bigger than yours material, interjected with, you know, I ain't scared of you motherfuckers. My dick's this big. Like, you don't got shit on me, motherfucker. Like, it's that. It's fucking that for a whole set, right? And he did not intend to do that set. That's what he got famous, like, was that. And it's like, you watch Chappelle, and essentially his first thing, no, I ain't scared of you, motherfucker. Like, it's that, right? He's coming out going, I'm not scared. I'm willing to talk, but you're going to have to talk to me, right? Like, it's that thing, you know?
Yep,
Like,
and if you're a good comedian, even
yeah.
if you're really, really dirty and really, really ruthless,
Yeah.
inevitably what'll happen is, like, you go on stage, if you get a heckler, they're like of the 1% that's out there. Everybody else that's sitting around is picking up what you're laying down and loves you. And
they paid $20 to fucking get in the door, right? Like, they want to have a good time. They're not trying to, like, have a bad time.
And they know exactly what they're getting into, man.
Yep.
As Doug Stanhope says, he's one of my all-time favorites. Maybe other than Chappelle, he might be the greatest living comedian. Is Doug Stanhope? As he goes, listen, man, I say the most disgusting stuff on purpose, but here's the thing. I'm the only one dealing out this shit, and you guys like it. So I know that you got my back, and so you're not going to get all, weird on me when I tell a horrible fucking joke. And he has told some horrible jokes along the way. They are hilarious. But because that's what he does. Most of everybody that goes to his shows, other than the occasional Karen, is going to be loving every gross joke that he tells, and he never really has to deal with that many hecklers. There have been times, and he's one of those people that's just like, he'll rip your throat out.
Have you ever watched
I've seen him
Kill Tony?
No.
Oh my God. It's the best. So Kill Tony, the premise, and there's now a bunch of Kill Tony shows because of how crazy good the premise is. So it's Tony Hinchcliffe, right? And he'll bring on, like, he's had on Rogan and Burt. He'll bring on, like, special, like, group panelists, essentially, right? That will be judges, right? And essentially he picks a name out of a hat at a comedy club, right? And he's got some regulars that come on the show and whatever. And then the rest of them are, like, people who threw their name in the hat, right? At the show. And you get a minute set. You get a minute, right? You actually get, like, a minute and change. Right, they'll give you a couple of different sound cues to be like, you can wrap the joke up, like, so, and you get a minute, and then they'll have the comedians talk about why it worked, why it didn't work, what was funny, right? And you got to stay up there even if you bombed, right? Like, and let them, like, roast you essentially, which, like, Hinchcliffe and them are, like, the best roasters ever, right? Like. And the 4 professional comedians, Red Band is also part of that, right? And, like, but yeah, watching it go wrong with a guy who's normally good, right? And they know that because they've seen him before. I've seen you around, whatever. It's like, no, you don't really do. And he's like, yeah, that sucked. I don't know what the fuck. Well, like, let's talk about it and let's figure it out. And maybe you shouldn't have done, like, the 9/11 baby joke. That probably was not, like. And it's like, but it's like, it's that sort of thing where it's like, they'll go through, and some people come out hot and do great. But it's like the best going to class ever in that. And they do, like, one every other week, it seems. I don't know what the timing on
I have
those
not
shows
heard
is.
of that.
They've had Alex Jones on as a judge. Like, I mean, it's weird as shit. They're over in Austin. So now, so they were part of that, like, comedian, exodus, but, it's hilarious watching people bomb.
I'm gonna
like
have to give it a look. That
good.
seems like it's right up my alley.
Yep. And it's just like, some of them are just like, what is that? What? And then they'll bring it back around with another joke, and it's just like, oh, how the fuck you do that? Like, you could tell the crowd starting to, like, oh, like, I don't know about this. Like, you could just feel all that, and it's just like, okay, cool. Like, but then you'll get those guys out there that just crush. So for like a minute.
Yeah. You can always tell who the naturals are too, in a way.
Yeah.
Like, they just kind of get it. And they're like, with a lot of the people we've mentioned here, Hicks, Carlin, Chappelle, a lot of times they're like, you can tell that they have, like, bullet points in their head of, like, little topics they want to hit, but it's never been all written down. They just know what they want to talk about, and they just kind of naturally make jokes along the way.
Right.
And when you listen to a lot of these guys, those 4, like Hicks, Stanhope, Carlin, Chappelle, and like Richard
Yeah.
Pryor, all of them, they are more like philosophers who like occasionally tell jokes.
Yes.
They're talking mostly about life and just kind of doing stream of consciousness.
Yeah,
And they
they're
have like
slow
little
burn.
jokes that they have.
Yep.
Yeah. And they have like punchlines
Yeah,
that they
they're
know
not-
they're going to hit
they're not
along
like
the
a
way, but
Mitch-
there's no like setup.
Yeah, they're not like a Mitch Hedberg, which is just rapid fire joke or like,
Right. No, and that's just joke after joke after
and
joke
they're not,
after joke. And
they're not as
and there's-
meticulous as like Seinfeld or like Louis or people who just
Right.
like nitpick every little detail in their set and like, you know.
There's another really cool or really good roast comic named Anthony Jeselnik who does that.
Yeah.
He's meticulous. Like every joke is perfectly worded. It's
Crafted.
deliver, and it just
Yeah.
boom, 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 50 jokes
Yeah.
in a row that are all. But that's different than what you get with the style of like Stanhope, who's up there with his fucking like, you know, he's up there with his drink and
Drink.
he's, you know, just
Well,
kind
it's
of
like
he knows
Ron
he wants
White
to.
and like like all these.
Yep, and he just goes, you know what? I'm gonna go after. He's like, I'm gonna go, you know, pedophilia and cannibalism and rape, and it's just like you know
Yeah.
what you're gonna get, and he's gonna hit all of them along the way. He has a really
Yeah.
awful bit about like the beheading videos with Jihadi John back in the day.
Yep.
Like, there's nothing off limits, but
Yeah,
like
Stanhope
that's
is nuts. Him
yeah,
and
dude. But
who was the one? McDonald, like the one he die recently.
oh, Norm Macdonald,
Norm.
yeah.
Norm
Yep.
would do the similar. He does these. I've been finding clips of him recently where he's like, I feel like this is like a Dangerfield joke, and he'll add him to like Adam Sandler, and he'll just have like these list of jokes that are like written, right? And like Adam did like a perfect end of like, and it was a Dangerfield joke. That's what was crazy. It was like Norm
Yep.
knew, right? You know, Norm. I know Jimmy talked about when Norm did the roast that time, right? Where it's like it's only if you've studied comedy do those jokes land as hard. Right?
Exactly.
It's like,
And there was almost no one really laughed except for the other comedians on stage with that roast.
Yeah.
With that set
Yeah.
for Norm Macdonald, but
And it's
he
like
was brilliant.
it's like he's making fun of the bad joke. It's like, how do you, what? And it's like, you're like, that's funny. It's like, you can tell it's like he's delivering them deadpan as shit, and like he's not putting any emphasis on any of it, and like mistiming it, and like it's like he's doing everything wrong. It's like you can't you can't do everything wrong, even if you were doing it wrong. Like it's
and it was funny. I
classic.
remember that. I do that a little bit too, where I'll deliver
Yeah.
it as dry as possible and just
Yeah.
like pretend, you know. It's
Yeah.
it's funny. He was a great guy. I don't know if he's a great guy. I know that his comedy was good.
Good.
And a lot of other comedians really respected him. And Dirty Work was one of my favorite movies back
Yeah.
in the day. I don't know if you ever saw Dirty Work. Like,
I think
Note
I
to
saw it.
Self.
Yeah.
It's really low budget, and it was really funny. Like back in the day, I haven't seen it in 15 years, but when I
I'm
was
trying
a
to remember
teen,
the
Dirty Work
last-
was one of my favorite.
The last
movies.
comedy thing I watched, I don't think it was the Chappelle. I tend to watch a lot because it comes up on YouTube and stuff, but I think I watched I'm trying to remember what the fuck it was. It was Chris Rock. That's what it was. It's fucking
His new one, Tambourine, was pretty funny too.
I have to watch that.
Not his best one, for sure,
watched-
but it was really, really good.
I watched. Now what does the daddy get? I watched that one again, right? You know, dad gets the big piece of chicken. That whole bit.
Yep.
Right. It's
Yep.
a killer. Like I rewatched some Eddie again because they're just like you can't watching those. The prior
It's
show
rough
I've been watching a
nowadays,
lot.
man. There's not a lot of like kind of that philosophical type comedian anymore. Like I don't see
Yeah.
any youngsters doing that very much. Like the best you'll get is like, I don't know, like Bo Burnham, but even he's not really a satirist. He tells some jokes about
Inside
society.
is incredible. Yeah, but it's like
It is great.
but it's not comedy. It's like it is. Like it is, you know, I wouldn't say it's stand-up. It's not like his stand-up stuff, but it's like a look into his own psyche and anxiety. And I just watched a whole the
And
comedy
it's also
without,
it's a little bit of
Yeah.
a commentary on like the technological age, which I
Yeah.
appreciate that from Bo. I think he's a really smart
Mhm.
guy, and I
he's
think
one
he's
of the few people who can because of how he started and stuff like that. Did you watch him on what's that show where they bring on comedians? It's like the Secret Room or
I did actually. I can't remember what it's called. I know what you're
Yeah.
talking about though. Yeah.
where he's like I'm not an artist or whatever, that song where he does that to like I forget who else is on that panel with him, right?
I can't remember off the top of my head, but I know what you're talking about. I first saw him on YouTube when he was just basically doing songs.
When he was like singing songs. Yep.
Before he had any stand up at all.
What how old are you?
I'm gonna be 34.
Okay, so you're around my age. I was born in 93, so you're somewhere close in there. So
yep.
I mean, I definitely remember growing up with like that level of where the internet was free. You know?
Like dude, I remember when YouTube was free and ad free.
Yeah.
Those were the days, man.
Ad free YouTube, where it's like, you know, where like a song talking about badgers can be popular, like. You know, like just the most random.
How many views does fucking Gangnam Style have now?
Oh my god, it's
like
crazy.
It's got like tens of billions.
Yeah, I mean, and it's like corporate bullshit and like whatever. Like, you know, back in my day, we had Bo Burnham singing about how his family thinks he's gay, and that was our entertainment.
Yep.
But
there aren't many real satirists nowadays that I know of. Anyway, if somebody knows. In the chat, let me know.
He had a show on Comedy Central. He do drawings a lot. It's very similar to Bo Burnham. But
Dimitri Martin.
Yeah, I remember him being very like satirical and
he's pretty good. Yeah, he is pretty good, but he's not he very, very like calculated in his like delivery.
Yeah.
And a little bit of social commentary. Everybody's got a little bit of social commentary, but I want more people that are out there like preaching about like the
Carlin.
Oligarchy sucking, like Hicks, Carlin, and to a large extent, even like Pryor and Chappelle.
Louis
they
Black.
have like very. I do like Louis Black. Yeah, he was awesome. Yeah, dude, he was one of the best back in the day.
Yeah.
But that doesn't exist very much. Those are all older guys. I don't see many younger people that have that same like edge. It's kind of a letdown.
Well, and it's hard to find that edge, especially when like. Politics is so depressing. It's like we're past the anger stage. We're now at like, we're just depressed about it. So now all the comedians you see here, like Bo Burnham, where it's like anxiety inducing and like, insular and questioning existence itself. And it's like watching inside, like that's the thing is like, he's so wrapped up in what society is with our social media and stuff like that special is just incredible in regards to like him being able to like to satire that.
It was a masterwork.
It was
definitely his best. It was definitely his best work so far. He deserves all the credit in the world. I loved it, and he's about as close as it gets. But even him, he won't go out there and do like a straight show. It's all going to be a lot of music, a lot of like insightful little quips in between, which is fine. He's good at that stuff. He's wonderful. I wish there were one or two other people that would just go out there and basically just like scream into the mic and do it the way that Sam Kinison and Carlin
would the CIA let those people exist?
No, man. I don't know if you heard that the FBI had like a 15-page file on Carlin. Back in the day, they were watching him for most of his life. Yeah,
that's
because
terrible.
Of the shit he would say. Yeah, and I'm sure he wasn't the only one, but the FBI did actually have like some
imagine the dossier on like Joe Rogan and like it's gonna be.
I'm sure a lot of those people. Actually, there is one, and he doesn't do a lot of satire in his stand-up, but he does it in his show. Is actually Russell Brand does a decent job.
I've seen him doing some incredible stuff. I watched him recently where he went on something with like. It was like a thing that had Hugo Boss, like that was the sponsor was Hugo Boss, right? At this like big gala event, like the Met or something like that, right? And he gets up on the mic and like does his thing, and he just goes, "I know I want to remind everyone that Hugo Boss, gave the wardrobe to the Nazis." And and it was just like, oh shit, like what? And it was just like. Yeah, but he does it in a way that's hilarious and funny, and it's good.
Yep.
I mean, he's now on Rumble now, right? I think I saw.
Yeah, he's doing well, and he deserves it. He's going to actually pass TYT in subscribers in about 2 or 3 months here, depending on his pace. He's got 4.5 million subs, and it was not that long ago on my show where I was talking about how he had just passed 4 million. So he's put on 450 or 460,000 subs over the past like month and a half, which puts him on pace to basically like right around not New Year's. That was what I was kind of predicting if he kept his current pace, which was an unbelievable tear about a month ago. He's not going to quite do it by New Year's, but like end of January-ish, he's actually going to pass TYT, and he absolutely deserves it. And with Russell, he was a comedian before, but he's become like more worldly and political recently, where he's like learning from the people that he's interviewing on his show. So he's kind of become more satirical as the years have gone on.
Yeah.
Which I love. So he doesn't like label himself as anything politically, but he talks almost entirely politics on his show now. But if you watch it, it's very satirical and it's very funny. And there's a reason why he's growing so well. His jokes are, just a little bit better than Cenk Uygur's.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I remember watching his early stuff, and it was, while good, like it wasn't very like it definitely reminded me of like Tim Minchin.
Yeah.
Right. It was very.
Yeah, I know you're talking about.
Similar-esque. I think I watched Get Him to the Greek, which I thought was a hilarious movie.
That's a great movie.
It's real good, touching the furry walls and stuff. I remember that movie way more than I should. It's a great stoner flick. Like, underrated.
Yes,
it probably is snuck under the radar. It'll be another cult classic. I'm calling it now. Right? People are going to be like, that movie. Which polite notice: when leaving the premises, please remind our neighbors that drunk people have been loudly leaving this establishment long before they decided to buy houses next door to it. Which is fucking hilarious. Like, just fuck you. Like, this sign is for the Karens. It's gotta be.
Yep.
But
dude, there's nothing that pisses me off more than like cancel culture nowadays. I'm like vehemently against people like routinely going after Chappelle or anybody that is like telling jokes, doing a stand-up routine. And I also don't like people that like on principle like go after Joe Rogan as if everything he fucking does is stupid. It's no, he's not had great takes his entire life.
Well, it's like our problems with him are probably the same as any celebrity, right? It's, the money can influence you in ways that you don't expect. You should probably listen to people when your issues don't align based off class system. It's like, yeah, we know that. We're not dumb, right? Like, we know he can be out of touch in that sense. Like, yeah,
but he's well-intentioned and he's a comedian. So it's like, just, get the fuck over it. If he has a bad take, a lot of times he at least listens to like the people that watch him, and he'll like, adjust accordingly. You can tell he's not sold out in the same way that a lot of these other fucking channels are. So I hate people that like on principle, like go after Rogan like he's some sort of like idiot or, like he's ill-intentioned. He's clearly not. So it just seems like they're kind of just jealous. All the people that are like that, you've seen TYT, like they go after Rogan all the time now. And like, dude, all you're fucking doing is trying to ride his coattails because he's popular and you guys aren't. You're trying to name drop him so that you can get some clicks, you fucking weirdos.
And all you had to do is use more kettlebells more and he'd listen to you. It's not,
exactly.
Like Rogan is the dude at the bar. Like, he's so many people. That's the thing that's crazy to me is like, if you talk to him like he was a guy you knew, right, that, you respected and had some friendship with, it would be, he would be more understanding. Joe has had, people disagree with him plenty of times, and he's not, like, ridiculous about it, right? He listens to them. He's had Bernie Sanders on the thing. Like, he's had, he was one of the only people to give Bernie a more than 2-hour video and was going to vote for the guy, right?
Yep.
Like, and he liked Tulsi, but so did I, so did a lot of people. Like, because
I liked Tulsi back in the day. I can't stand her now.
Right, yeah, well, and it's like we can tell that it's also pandering, right? And we can tell the stuff she's doing now is pandering, right? We've always thought that, we always take our politicians with grains of salt. We hope they say the right thing, which sometimes Tulsi does, sometimes she doesn't. Like, it's same thing with all the squad and all the, like, you're more mad at Tulsi than you are at Ro Khanna, right?
Right.
Like, what? They're the same to me, and they're the same to Jimmy. They're the same to, like, they have said distinctly they're not having politicians on, right? Unless they're third party. That's what they've decided to do. So, it's most people just canceling before they even have, like, their facts straight on any of it. But
Yeah, a lot of the thing on Rogan, like a lot of the hate that he gets is just jealousy. Like he's the most influential, like, voice in terms of like, media / news or whatever. So a lot of these people that attack him, it's either mainstream media who realizes that he occupies the niche that they will never occupy in the future and they want to occupy, or people that are already online trying to occupy his niche that see his numbers and they're like, fuck, we're never going to get there. So we have to demonize him. So it's all the TYTs and the mainstream media that demonize him because they're fucking jealous.
And he's, he's at Spotify now, of course, owned by Alphabet, of course. Like, he went from one demon to the next demon when he could have went his own path. Like, we know all the problems,
Yep.
And like, I'm sure that those options were weighed, and Joe feels, that I guarantee you, he thinks he's doing the right thing, right? Like, no one thinks they're the bad guy. So he's
certainly more reasonable than any of those other people I just mentioned in terms of mainstream media. So it's like, I don't agree. I don't fucking agree with him on everything, but I at least think that there's a modicum of like, he's trying to do the right thing and he's trying to be
understand.
Like introspective.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, anyway, but I just thought you'd like this one. You just triggered my flight or fight response, but I'm a flightless bird. I thought that one was good. I learned another one this week. Try Jesus, but not me, because I throw hands.
Right.
So, but you gotta be careful when doing athletic stuff like that, right? You're playing soccer and whatnot. You did the goal. Yeah. Oh.
And broken nose.
Why? And broken other things, probably. Like, what happened? Like, I mean, he does the cool power. Like, it looks cool. Like here, yeah, like superhero landing, right? And you just nope. Like, just terrible. But what else do I have? Oh, a little bit more turkey, right? What do you like it when I stuff you, huh? Just like. Also, what is this? Like, we've got a goat. I think that's another goat and a deer. It might be a different animal. No, I think it's a goat. And this like giant turkey. Anyway, but I found that one. Dude, what are they doing out here in Philly? Kids gotta go to school. You got the boot on the bus. What is
this
that?
world coming to, man? What is this world coming to?
Apparently, is the school supposed to pay for it? Like,
I don't know, man. Maybe it was that a couple of the kids that were on there had school lunch debt. We're like, no, you don't get to use the bus anymore until you pay your school lunch debt. That's capitalism in a nutshell.
Like, it's the worst. Like, I know this has to be like a prank or something, right? Like, it could even be photoshopped, but Jesus Christ, what is that? Meanwhile, in Philly,
what are we coming to? Like I said, man, as a satirist, it's super easy for me to write jokes nowadays.
Yeah.
This country's so cartoonish that it's like
ridiculous.
Like, it just, the writing gets done for me. All I have to do is just be observant.
Oh, it's like they're all characters. It's ridiculous. But
Hi. Oh, you're so big boy. Hi, you're so cute. What's your name? What's your name? Right there. Oh, hi, Vino Moose. Oh, hi, Vino Moose.
Vino Moose. Yeah, Vino Moose. Homie. Your name's Vino Moose. Cool.
Oh, it's funny.
Oh, I love that. I love Vino Moose. Like, just
Vino Moose.
that's like those dudes are high as shit. Vino Moose.
It's funny.
Going high, going to the park, trying to see you some animals. I think this is the last one I have for today, right? I think sometimes we all just feel like this.
Yep. One time we used to have a poodle, and he's still alive. He's not dead. He just lives with with my in-laws now.
Mm-hmm.
He was a little teeny tiny dog, and he one time got a hold of like probably, I think it was like 2 grams in a bag and ate the whole thing. And he's about a 10 pound dog. That's exactly what he looked like, man. He was he was alive, but basically like comatose, like eyes rolled back, tongue hanging out, feet up in the air, like the fucking dog in or in Something About Mary. Like I was like
dead bugging.
He looked, he looked dead, but he was fine. He was just stoned out of his mind, man. It was so funny.
Back when I was in high school, I was a super band nerd, right? And like we would get like you'd have to do gigs if you didn't like you'd do something right. A section leader would give you like some punishment, right? And one of the punishments was just called dead bugging, right? Where you had to like lay on the ground and like do like that dog do when they're like, just put all your arms and legs up and just hold them there. There was that. They made you do like yoga poses for time. Like exalted
so
warrior.
Painful.
Oh, it was the worst. Or like
painful.
It was either that or like running laps or like
Yeah.
It was like one of those things, and it was just like, okay, I'll guess I'll dead bug for a while. Like whatever. Normally I was a section leader. It was a lot of times I was giving them out. So it's like, like.
Oh, you're a cruel man.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely didn't do. I would try to have it apply to like what you were, like that was my thing. Like, all right, go practice some more, go do whatever. Like one of my favorites was like motorcycling, and I'd make you like hold drumsticks and like sit like again like a wall sit.
Oh right? Yeah, dude. Oh yeah. Oh, dude, and hold your arms out. Oh, that would suck.
Well, it's like we had to do marches on like Martin Luther King Day, 6.5 miles at like 20 degrees, like brass players, lips bleeding, like you had to be like hardcore to do that shit. It was awful. But like I remember like that dude, the dumbest stuff. Like if you thought Chappelle like was like raunchy and made terrible jokes, imagine being in a boys bus in high school, like going to football games. Like it was just, we were singing Afro Man as loud as possible with the bus driver like singing along, and like it was craziness back then.
Man, I my kind of like goal with my show, other than giving people the news in like an entertaining way, is basically to like pound cancel culture into the ground and don't let it back up. Like I worry, like kind of talking about what we were talking about earlier, is like part of the reason that there aren't any Carlins or Hicks or Pryors anymore is because a lot of people are afraid to talk that way, and it's bullshit, because they're afraid to get canceled by a whole bunch of people out there that are fucking like they can't take a joke. There's a reason that I think Lisa Lampanelli has not made a comeback. It's because she's worried that a whole bunch of people are going to fucking hate on her. You remember her, the Queen of Mean? Mm-hmm. She's a very funny lady, and I'm sure she's a very nice lady in real life. But I think part of the reason that a lot of those comics are like afraid is because they know they're going to get Karen Zilla'd, and it drives me crazy. I would love for like this country to just fucking like get over it. Seriously. Like if you can't take a joke, then don't go to comedy routines and don't go after people on YouTube that are telling jokes.
You notice the comedians are the ones that take the jokes the best. Right?
Yeah.
It's like I can talk about how, Joe Rogan needs Rogaine like all day, right?
He doesn't give a fuck.
He's not gonna care. He's gonna make a fat joke and laugh it off, and we're both gonna go get high in the green room. Like they don't, it's like I want to see. I've been thinking about either trying to set this up or like get it set up or whatever. The roast of Jimmy Dore, I imagine, will get quite a few clicks, right?
Yeah, dude. I would love that. I'd feel bad roasting Jimmy, like, because I do like agree with him on most stuff, and I don't dislike him. But like at the same time, I would love to write some jokes about that.
But
That'd be hilarious.
He's got a tiny little dog that probably can't make it up to the chair. It's like there's plenty of terrible jokes we can make at his expense that he would die. He would die.
I love it.
He laughs at himself more often than anything else. Like, and he also does not the roastee get the mic at the end of the night.
Yeah,
that's gonna be. You also get to see who all would go. Right, we got Ron, Graham, Lee Camp. You get all the comedians, right? Throw Max. He's done some comedy before, and then you get to see Jimmy roast those cats. That's what I want to see.
Oh, that would be great.
It's gonna be great.
I would pay to watch that.
I would pay. Yeah, put it behind like a live show. I'm down. 99 cents, because those TYT people want to see those jokes. You know,
Yeah,
they
dude.
want a few of those.
So they can steal them and then deliver them in the worst way possible because they had no fucking comedic timing on that show.
And then
I got people come after me too. Like they'll the one joke that I kind of liked is somebody's like, dude, look at the shoulders on this dude. He looks like the Machinist,
Right.
like Christian Bale's Machinist. And I was like, good. That was a good joke.
Yeah, he
Thank
worked
you,
real hard. Yeah, but it's also like, what, you're gonna get mad at like Christian Bale for like like expertly killing himself practically to get a role? Like, have you also seen that guy like be swole as shit in another movie because he can be? Like, that guy just works hard. You know?
Yeah, dude, and I love that shit. I was like, and also it's like beyond that, if the name Machinist, like if I got the nickname the Machinist because I look like him, hell yeah, man, that's a cool ass nickname. I don't mind being the Machinist. You know what that movie's fucking about?
Yeah,
I'll be fine with that. Like,
down.
so I don't care whatsoever. And people do come at me like that.
I mean, he could have went with the guy
TYT
from Memento. Like that would have been worse, right? Like,
yep.
You know.
And if any of those, any comedian gets roasted and there's a good joke against them, they crack up because they realize it ain't fucking personal. For God's sake.
Well, it's also most of us comedians avoid conflict at all costs because we're giant pussies most of the time, right?
Yeah.
But you know, we use comedy as a defense mechanism, which we had because we were all bullied little shits with mental problems and fucking whatever, right?
Me too.
But you know, well, it's that's just the way it goes. You learn how to just burn someone better than they can burn you. Like that's what it ends up being. And it's like, we've heard all of them before. We've heard all of them before. Me. Yeah,
can't hurt me.
And it's like, yeah, you can call me fat on Twitter all you want to. Your mom can still see my dick just fine. Like, we all know how to handle every one of those times. It's like, we're good. We've done. It's like, you don't think I've been called like every name that rhymes with Reef ever, right? You don't think that's happened? It's like, what do you think I've been doing? You know, I've been failing at jokes for the last 30 years. Like, we've been doing that.
We're impervious to
we've
insults.
Been bombing. Yeah, it's like we've annoyed every piece of shit ever in our lives. Like, you know,
and that's what I actually try to do. Like, that's kind of my thing. I've said it a million times. I literally go out there and try to trigger the neolibs as much as possible.
Yeah.
And I design my jokes as such. So if people get pissed off at what I say on my show, chances are you're a fucking neolib.
Right.
So, no one and everybody else that comes to my show is like, dude, don't you dare like hold up on these people. You go nuts. That's why people come to my shit. So I'm not going to stop that stuff. Some people want to get mad about it. They can go fuck themselves.
The whole reason I think most of us were fans of Jimmy Dore to begin with was he was yelling when we were. You know, you would go and watch those debates on TYT, and when you were about to yell, Jimmy was up out of his seat before you. Right? You know, it's like he's your, it's your id back in the screaming. Like, out
you live like
like
vicariously through his anger. Like, and that's what they do with my show too. I think is like, I say the shit that a lot of people only say in their heads or whisper to themselves about people in the lefty YouTube verse or lefty politicians. And I'll say the most gross ass shit ever that most people only think. And then they just live vicariously through our jokes, which is, that's fine with me, man. Like, if that's my niche and that's what I occupy for the rest of my life, so be it. I can keep doing it.
The stuff that I worry about is stuff like, the imposter syndrome that starts to creep in. Like, what the fuck am I doing here? Right? I'm a fucking pothead comedian in a basement. I mean, Florida doesn't have basements, but, same difference, right? Like,
you just gotta understand, have some humility, stay humble. Right. Imposter syndrome has a harder time getting at you.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like when you get too much responsibility than what you really want, right? Like, I think that's the thing I'm more worried about, right? Where it's like, then I do have to watch what I say more, than I am, filtering myself more, all that stuff. There's a smaller and smaller circle of like, stuff that's like available to be said, especially right now on YouTube, right? So
and the best way to avoid that, I've found, or the way that I try to avoid it, is just like, I try to be nice and kind to everybody who really doesn't fucking deserve it. Like, you have to really sell out and say some really dumbass shit before I'll come at you and make fun of you.
Well,
And like I don't go looking for trouble where it doesn't exist.
We're not out picking fights most of the time. It's like most of us, Jimmy is the best counterpuncher I've ever seen, right? There's things where, when we get people that come to us when we have something that we've gotten wrong, and they come to us and tell us, hey, this is why it was wrong, I'm here to help you. I think there's a way to reframe what you're thinking and this, and it's like they're doing it from a place of togetherness, that we're going to work together on this issue, right? Regardless of your opinion, right? They'll try to validate your emotions first, right? It's like classic relationship stuff, right? It's like, do you care about the relationship that you're trying to work on? With a few people, I don't even want to hear what they have to say at this point, right? Like, there's those individuals who it's like you've either lost all credibility anyway. Until you build trust back, you're not gonna, like,
right.
That's part of it, right? But it's when people come to you or me and say something, we listen, right? But just tell us, like,
Yep.
It's not that hard.
I change my mind all the time. And
all the time.
There's been a handful of times, not really. Like, there's really been only one time, and even this time they didn't really come after me, where my subs were like, there was a joke you overstepped on. And so basically I was like, I understand, I hear you. And then I was like, I'm sorry guys, whatever. And it was just my Hassan Piker diss track, which is dumb as hell. Like, because I was rapping, and they're like, it's a little, they're like, you went overboard a little bit.
Like, have they heard E40? Like, or
right. And also in that rap, I was playing off of the last scene in 8 Mile.
Yes.
So like a lot of my lyrics have to do with the last rap in 8 Mile, but a lot of people haven't seen that, so they don't know that what I was talking about is just
Rogan
based
talks
off
about that a lot too. It's like, you know what else Spotify has on it? Wu-Tang. Like, right. Like the stuff that's said in there, or like pick an ODB verse. Yep. Like pick a Dr. Dre album. Like, any of those are gonna have way more violence and whatever. A lot of us males live in a violent world because of, what we have to deal with, right? You're going to tell me that Rome doesn't have to be violent occasionally in that environment, right? That he hasn't had to deal with something like that?
Right.
Are you kidding me? Have you been to Detroit? Like, you got to fight.
But in
sometimes.
his heart of hearts, he's a softie. He's a humanist. He loves everybody. But a lot of fuckers go out there and act like Rome's some sort of like, he's violent. He's not. No, he's like the least violent there is.
Yeah.
What he has to do is he has to live in his world and defend himself. And a lot of people come at him. So
and
like,
the only thing he says is, hey, it might get spicy. We should be ready for that.
Right.
And like, that's it. He doesn't mention that we should be the ones to do it. Right.
Right.
He's just
100%.
saying, like, hey, prep yourself for when stuff happens, like, and exactly. I think it makes it, because he's had to deal with his own stuff. He's saying, like, hey, it might not be when you want it to be, right? Like, that kind of stuff. It's like, and basic.
Like, and the people that went after me for that lyric, they just don't understand what I was doing. And like, they were again looking for a reason to, like, to make me look like I'm violent when I'm a humanist. So whatever, the thing is that it actually backfired. My show grew like crazy, and everybody that like sees my like raps or my stand-ups, stuff like that, they generally are like, I like what this guy is laying down, for the most part. Every time people come, they think a joke that I tell is gross.
Yeah.
They might leave my channel, but if they share it, 10 more people join the channel. I don't really give a fuck. You can
self-censor yourselves, people. You can do that.
Yeah, and you know what? I don't really want a bunch of neoliberal asshole, like, sensitive Karen types watching my show anyways.
Yeah.
My show necessarily, like, sheds that kind of sub. Like, I necessarily keep them away. But the people that do watch, that are neolibs, that are looking to get pissed off, oh my God. Do they ever get pissed off? And I do that on purpose.
And so they just keep giving you views, which is
whatever.
Which is the best
and I'm gonna
regards.
Keep trolling them. If Ryan Grimm wants to come back to my show and watch some of my stuff, he will be not laughing at all of the jokes that I tell about him and his propaganda and his horrible hair.
No, but hopefully, if he's got a couple of jokes, I'm willing to host the roast between the two of them. Like, that's possible.
Yeah, right. Ryan Grimm. It'll be like getting roasted by Ben Stein and Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
I'm sure Jimmy would love to have Ryan Grimm on the roast panel. I'm sure that could happen too. So
Ryan Grimm, I'm fairly certain he has like a humiliation fetish at this point. Like
Yeah.
it would like, if he got roasted, it would like give him a boner. Like he loves getting his ass kicked.
Well,
There's
it's like-
nothing that he likes more than getting like whooped on by like Kim Iverson. Have you
Right.
seen the Hills numbers when Kim Iverson goes on there and destroys him? Every time he gets destroyed by Kim Iverson, they get a fucking million views.
Yeah.
And that's the only time they ever get a good ratio anymore,
Yeah.
is when Ryan Grimm goes out there and gets his little white ass spanked by Kim Iverson. And it's hilarious. It's catharsis to watch. And in fact, I'm going to be going after him one more time in my next roast.
Where the first one, I feel like this is the case with a few of them, right? That, there's a few ones out there that are willing to do a couple of good things to like, so that they can do a bunch of like terrible reporting on top of that, right? It's like, it's like they get a few things to gain credibility among progressives or whatever, and then shit on that credibility for like the rest of their time. And occasionally they'll do another good thing when they feel like they're too close to the line again.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And that's kind of his formula, actually. I've actually given Ryan, I've done 2 pro Ryan Grimm episodes, not pro, but where I like kind of gave him credit, where he went out and basically bodied Emily Jashinsky on the Hills Rising back in the day.
Yeah.
About how she said that the America liberated all of the people from Auschwitz. And he was like, actually, no, that was the Russians. And that was an awesome, he did a great job. So I've actually covered for Ryan a couple of times, but then he goes out there and like goes and tweets against Aaron Mate on the OPCW cover up. And then I got to go right out there and fucking kick him in the nuts again.
Right.
So you're right. I think he like understands that occasionally he has to do a little bit of good reporting.
Yeah.
So that he doesn't like go into TYT territory, but like 95% of the time, he's just doing the same shit that Jank and Anna are doing.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing with a few people out here now that like, they're willing to do a few good things, and then the rest of the time they want to have terrible takes, right?
Yep.
And that's frustrating to us because most of the time those terrible takes would get you thrown out, right? But like, that little bit of good stuff that you hold on to, right? And Ryan with Tar Reed and with the what was the other case, the Time's Up situation. Right.
There's another time. The other time I gave him credit was when he actually showed how he did an article about how Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk got a $10 billion subsidy from Congress to build their like spaceships. And this was like a year ago, but I was like, dude, that was, pretty good reporting. I gave him credit for that. But then, he goes off and does all this other shit that, I can't let go. So it's like for every one time he does something good, 9 times he does something really stupid, and I got to go after him.
Well,
nothing personal, man. Just stop being a propagandist. I told him in that episode, I was like, bro, if you go out and start doing your own online, like independent journalism where you do like a podcast or like a Substack or both, I will be like, dude, we could use your brain to help us, but you need to stop with the putting Piero Midiar's wiener in your mouth. You got to like get off of that billionaire train, dude. Like you have to like come to the right side. I don't think he's ever going to do that. I think he's going to be on TYT in like 4 or 5 years. They're going to collab, by the way. I think Vosh and all of them are going to go to fucking TYT over the next like 7 or 8 years.
Yeah. Or buy it or something. But anyway, I think I've kept our viewers entertained for long enough. Where can people go see you roast all these people worth roasting? I think I have your YouTube channel in the description below. I'm pretty sure. That's Rob Buechner on YouTube, right?
It's Robert Durden
Gotcha.
on both YouTube and Rockfin.
Gotcha.
So yeah, if you want to find me there, I do some Rockfin exclusive stuff. Most of my roasts are on YouTube for now, but they're gonna eventually get me. So I'm gonna have to transfer entirely to Rockfin eventually because I've already been censored twice. But for now, all of my roasts are on YouTube.
And your Twitter, before they take you down off Twitter, is at Rob Buechner. Right.
Yep.
There.
Rob underscore. Yeah. Rob underscore Buechner. Yep.
Right. And you're also a part of the INN network, which is an onomatopoeia because it's News Network. But a link tree for the INN network channels is in the description as well. And me at Reef Freeland on Twitter, right? I have my link tree down in the description as well. You can find my Twitter on there and my Ko-fi if you want to send me a couple of bucks for weed money, be super appreciative of that. But otherwise, I think that's it for us tonight. As always, everyone chill out, smoke weed, and remember